Hey guys, and welcome to or back to the Pause in Pursuit podcast with your host, Summer Clark. This week we have a super exciting episode, the longest episode on this podcast to date. So I'm not going to spend too long on the intro, but it's a conversation with Natasha Wise. I absolutely love this conversation. And we speak all about the evolution of agility because Natasha's been in agility for such a long time and she's super experienced and so much in the sport has changed up until now. And yeah, this is such an interesting episode. I know you guys are going to love it. But before we jump in, quick weekly recap. Geez, this is not a good start. For me, haven't done a lot in the past week with my foot still obviously in recovery, but injury update, it's so much better. I am walking around now without the special little offloading shoe thingy that I bought. It does ache if I do, quite a bit of walking, for example, or more than it's used to. But that's totally normal. I've been reassured by my physio, who I'm seeing again. Well, I will have seen her today when you're listening to this. So yeah, going in the right direction. It's definitely healed now, but it's just about building it back up and getting it used to doing as much exercise as it used to do before the injury. The muscles in the foot as well, just the whole foot, the bones, the muscles, everything just needs to get used to moving and being loaded like it was before. So it's just about a gradual build up now. But we're going in the right direction and I'm feeling good about it. Met up with a few friends over the past week, which has been really nice. Keeping myself sane, obviously. I can go out and about a bit more now. I'm hoping to be signed off to drive. On Wednesday. So I'll know by now when you're listening to this if I can drive again. So hopefully I can. And then I'm hoping to start back training classes with Lucy a week today, if I can drive. So that will be amazing. Obviously, I'll still be walking around the course, but just starting to get back into my normal life, obviously at a bit slower pace, but really starting to, get back to everything that I was doing before agility, even though I'll be walking. And yeah, so all positive vibes, going in the right direction. Super happy with that. And that is pretty much it from me for the intro. I really hope you enjoy this conversation with Natasha. I won't keep you from it for too much longer. So enjoy, guys. Bit stupid question because I'm sure everyone knows who you are, but just in case someone doesn't, do you just want to briefly introduce yourself first and foremost?
Oh, this is the hardest bit. I hate this stuff. Okay,
Time to boast.
Pardon?
Time to boast.
Oh, yeah. That's not my forte. No. Okay, so hi, everybody. My name's Natasha Wise. I've been competing in agility for 34 years. Yes, I am actually that old. So I started competing at the age of 8. I've won the World Championships with my dog Dizzy 3 times, along with Lisa Frick, the other large world champion. So that was her. I've judged at Crufts I've been a judge and I've hung up my boots on that. And I turned to pro trainer in 2012. What else do you want to know about me?
That's a lot of things. Yeah, that's a lot of things. Yeah, I didn't realise you were a judge as well, or were a judge in the past.
Yeah, back in late noughties, was that noughties, 2008 sort of time. I started my judging career and was selected to judge all the prestige events. The only one I haven't judged is Olympia, and that's because my family just love it there. So I haven't judged that one because I started declining that. But
you need talent to get worse. Stop qualifying.
There is that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a super, super cool time.
Awesome. So first question then that someone asked is, how is modern day agility different to how it was when you first joined the sport? So again, there's a lot of things, isn't there, realistically?
Quite a lot. I have to say, amazing questions. But yeah, that's a great one to start with. Mm-hmm. They're in no particular order, and I have got a little list because actually when I was going through this one, I felt like there was more things that had stayed the same than actually, less things that had stayed the same than actually changed. So
yeah, that's it.
The first thing that sprung to my mind was when I first started competing, we only actually had 2 height categories. So we had the small category and we had the large category. So
no medium.
Pardon?
No medium. Oh wow.
No medium.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the large dogs jumped. I've got it written down, I think. Large dogs jumped 76 centimetres and the small dogs jumped 35 centimetres, which wasn't so great for me at the time because I had a dog that was 45 centimetres, jumping all that height. So yeah, that was difficult. So jump heights probably were the first thing, and then they changed again, obviously, more recently. The grading structure, so back in the day, back in the war, we had elementary, starters, novice, senior, and advanced, and we also had intermediate. So the grading structure is completely different now, and how you could mix grades from that. We then obviously had the change in the jump heights more recently. I sort of just touched on that, where the jump heights came down and we introduced the intermediate heights. That's more relevant and more current, I suppose. Volume of competitors is probably a key one for me. So it would be, in the 90s, it would be very common that we'd turn up to a show, and in the novice category, which would cover the grades 3 to 5 nowadays, you could have up to 850 dogs in that class.
Oh, wow.
And then that would be split down into parts. So say you turn up to Thames, for example, one of the biggest shows. Yeah, you could have part 4 of novice agility, because the entries were like 900. So you'd be competing against sort of, the normal class size was around 250, and that was for starters. And then the other grades too. And we used to run open classes as well. So yeah, the volume of competitors per class is a lot different now. The only class that's similar is probably grade 7. Now that was advanced in those days. There probably were about 70 dogs in that class before championship began, type of scenario. Okay, another key difference is the number of qualifiers. Currently we're seeing mostly kennel club classes, that generally feed qualifiers. There are others, which is exciting, but back in the day there were more qualifiers, like Barber was a key sponsor, we had Pedigree, etc. There's quite a variety of classes as well, so Gamblers, which you did do at WAO. There was a circular knockout that we used to compete against each other. That was quite fun. So yeah, that's another difference for me, is the volume of qualifiers, and also the variety of sponsors that we had. Didn't win any money, which I think is a good thing, but we did used to win Barber jackets, and we did used to win like quite cool stuff. So that was that. The other key point for me, probably 20 years ago, was to win into grade 7, you had to beat the best, to be with the best. So currently I perceive that, well, currently the way that it is for me, is that you go through the grades, which is fine, and you beat that grade. But when you to win up a grade, wherein previously what used to happen is you had to get into advanced, which was grade 7, you had to beat advanced dogs to get there. So that was a key change that's happening back then that we don't have so much today. And correct, if there's anything that's like, you're like, what? You need to go, Tasha, what? Like, I am blonde, so
that's
I'm
right.
quite well educated, but I am blonde.
So a grade 3 dog then, say, to get to grade 4, say, would have to compete against a grade 7 to get from grade 3 to 4, hypothetically.
You could potentially. So, for example, on the day if you turned up and your grade 3 dog was in an open class, the grade 3 dog could beat the grade 7 dog, but that would be one of their wins to grade 4. Oh,
I see. Okay, in the open, yeah.
Yeah, for example. So the key class, we had an intermediate class, which was grades 3 to 7. So a dog competing at, say, grade 3 there could beat the grade 7 dogs, but then would only win up, obviously, into grade 4.
Oh, I see. Okay. So like every class is combined, more or less.
It could have been, yeah. There's less. Which is why we got the larger classes, I think, as well.
Yeah.
But more specifically, when you were senior, so when you were in grade 6, you had to win, I think it was 4 classes at that time, and you had to beat, so all of the advanced dogs would be in there, because in those days you could run senior and advanced. Advanced was exclusive on its own, and senior dogs couldn't run in advanced, but the advanced dogs all ran in seniors. So win into advanced, you had to beat the advanced dogs to get there.
Ah, okay, that makes sense, yeah. That's
crazy. I'm so glad you chipped in now. I'm like, oh my God.
No, I was fascinated. I was like, oh my God, it's completely different. I know some, I think is it Agility Nuts, one of my more local shows, they still run classes as far, I think they have elementary, starters, novice and stuff like that. So it's similar, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, similar terminology.
Yeah, and then height-wise, I think they have, I think it's anything but large and then large. So they're all competing against each other bar large. So it's kind of, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, it sounds pretty similar, to be fair, yeah.
God, 850 dogs in a class is ridiculous.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think we're over judging numbers.
Yeah, true. No, that is insane. Wow.
So, yeah, cool. The other difference, obviously, is volume of shows. So now we have a significant number of shows. We can even compete on a Wednesday. How good is that?
I know, it's crazy.
We can compete every day of the year. Wow.
It's perfect unless you have a 9 to 5, I suppose. We're all right.
Yeah, exactly. So, there was less shows. So generally, people used to travel to the same shows, and you'd have the same people that would appear there. So, volume of shows were a lot less. I think this one's quite interesting for me, is basically in terms of international influence. So I would say nowadays in Great Britain, we tend to run, I don't know, because we want to be the best in the world. Well, that's a driver for me. I feel that the UK right now have a significant international influence, and we generally follow the international influence rather than the internationals following us. But obviously, the World Championships was only launched in, what was it, 2000, early 2000s, and at that time we were the leaders, so we were the ones that were leading the way, and our founder people of the Agility Club in those days would go on tour and deliver seminars on, well, this is agility, and now here we are.
Now we're following in their footsteps.
Exactly. So now I think that's completely changed around in terms of we led, and now we are led by them.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't realise there was a point where we led, to be fair. That sounds awful, but I always kind of thought that, some of the foreign countries were always that one step ahead, if that makes sense. Like with course design and judges and stuff like that.
And totally. That is totally like the way it is and where we're at.
Yeah.
Now, currently, but historically, well, we are the founders. So
true. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, with Crufts as well.
Yeah. Which is why hopefully I think in 2028, I think that might be some anniversary, which is why they're trying to, I think, get the World Championships back for that. But we'll watch this space and see.
That'd be fun. It was Crufts, wasn't it? The agility I think the first ever agility competition was Crufts. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
I wasn't doing it back then.
Okay.
I wasn't.
Good to clarify. I just remember reading it somewhere once before, but I suppose that makes sense. Oh, amazing.
There we go. The other point I think I'm going to move on to in the next question is around equipment, but obviously there was a significant obstacle variety back in the day. The key one for me was the table. So just because I think my dogs are quite good at the table because I use it for control, etc. But so the table, because we couldn't get in when we turned into electronic timing, there's not an accurate means of measure to the table. So that I feel has been abolished because of that. But it does remove the self-control element of it. You only got that on the seesaw now if you choose to do a stop. So the table was obviously removed. The chain tire has been adapted. The good old flat tunnel.
Oh my God.
And then also the wishing well. That was really interesting when they put that in Starters Cup. I was like, okay, let's see how this is going to go.
Yeah, I remember when I competed with my little terrier and she'd be fighting her way through the flat tunnel and then she'd come up to a well and be like, what's that?
Here, doggy fruit. So there's a bit of obstacle variety.
God, the table, I can't even imagine trying to get Arrow to lie down on a table halfway through a run and be quiet and sit still. That's crazy.
Imagine, they're barking, the Toto, barking, and you're bouncing up and stop the timer.
Yeah. Did they have to be quiet as well?
No, I think
okay, they didn't. That's all right then.
No, and I don't think they had to be down. They just had to be on it.
Okay, that's a bit more realistic.
Lay down on it. Go on, sorry.
Was it 5 seconds they had to stay on it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. God, I forgot about that.
They used to bloody count. 5 and 4 and 3. Count quicker.
What, out loud?
Pardon? Yeah.
Did they say it out loud as you were on the course? Oh no. That's so funny.
And if they liked you, you counted quicker, and if didn't like you, counted slower. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Hence why it's probably not being used anymore.
Yeah. Probably the slowest 5 seconds of your entire life.
I used to like it down because then you could move further away and it felt more self-control. The dog's not going to break it.
Yeah, more like a start line.
They were standing and be like,
that's so funny.
So another difference was in I think it was in 2010 the push round came into play. That was the first time we saw the backside jump being integrated into the course design. So it's a relatively new concept, maybe 14 years where we've been mastering that beautiful technique that is the backside. You'll know that I'm not a fan of that one due to the body. And so that was that. And so for me then that's when course design really changed and the complexity of the courses changed. The look and feel to the dog I feel is the same. we'll come on to equipment changes in a minute, but I feel like things do look fairly similar, etc. But definitely for me, the complexity of what is being asked of the dog on the jump now is significantly different to what it was, say, back in 2000, that type of era, sort of 20 years ago. So yeah, and then obviously the physical demand of that. I forgot to say in the introduction, obviously my education, I have a master's degree in exercise science. So I have quite a unique way of looking at the sport because of my education. And I always remember at school they used to say to us, "Oh, you'll never look at a body in the same way." And I used to think, what the hell are you on about? But yeah, sure is true. I see things I don't want to see, and that's not just in certain areas. I mean from a movement perspective. So yeah.
That's interesting, because that was one of my options actually. I was deciding between doing the canine behaviour or the like physical sort of exercise science or like sports therapy or something like that, because it's so interlinked with agility, isn't it? I mean, agility is what got me into sort of the gym and fitness and all sorts of things, so it is very interlinked.
Yeah, hugely. I think there's many of my science principles I use and cross over into the dog, and the human and the dog are significantly different, but lots in their biology is similar, and also their physiology, even though they're quadruped and we're two-ped, but
still have the same parts, I suppose.
yeah, exactly. So obviously with the change in the course design and the complexity of that, I think the slices really came into the fore probably in 2015, 2016. So the threadle and the backside, more traditionally trained dogs found it more challenging because we would use more foot rotation, where now we tend to use feet to the future, and I do in my handling system, feet to the future, eyes and arms with the current, so where currently the dog is, whistle stop sort of thing. But back then, basically before 2015, it was more about the footwork. So for example, if you're doing a straddle, you would turn your feet in to stop the dog forward motion, and that would then slow the dog down, which then brings me on to my next point, which is obviously we're now moving at the World Championships, I think, is being won in around sort of 6.5 meters per second, depending on the judge's course design. We're back when Dizzy first won. She won with a significant margin in 2010, and her course meters per second was only 4.7, 4.8 meters. So yeah, the speed that the dogs are going, we're going at sort of 1.5 meters quicker per second. Sorry, more than that. But yeah, significantly faster than what we were.
Yeah, I knew it got faster, but not that much faster. That's huge, isn't it?
Yeah,
wow, massive. Yeah. I also can't imagine designing a course without some sort of backside. Like, I'm trying to imagine course design before a backside was a thing. Like, I can't.
Exactly. So it's really hard as well when you're competing at international level. You sort of look to that quite a lot because that's what you get. Although this year at the World Championships, we didn't see as many backside jumps. I remember in Pebbles' final year before COVID, I had 5 jumps facing across the middle of the arena, and every single one was the backside.
Oh God, that's a lot.
I was like, can we not test anything else than this?
Yeah, is there any other skills that maybe I've trained before?
Yeah, something different. Yeah. So that was that. Okay, and I just put about training methods. So training methods have moved on massively.
Hugely.
Which is good. Which is so cool.
In dog training, in dog training in general, I think that's been the case as well. More of a shift towards better ways of training, more positive reinforcement, stuff like that.
So good, like clicker shaping, and that encourages the dog to create more speed and to think through its problems a bit better. So yeah, definitely a move forward in that direction as well. Okay, from a training setup, when I first used to start agility, we used to pop along to our local kennel club, and we used to train on handmade equipment.
Oh, wow. Yeah, to be fair, when I started I think I started, 12 years ago, and we had like wooden handmade jumps. One of the guys at our training club, he made them. So he made all the equipment in his back garden and brought them, and we just used it. And it was just wooden, like hard wooden.
Yeah, and so I don't know how long ago it's been, but I'd say I remember clearly early in the millennium, that sort of time where we just, mostly it was kennel clubs that you basically just trot up once a week, and you'd be in a class of maybe 8 to 10 for an hour, and then you'd go home and you'd do it the next week. Where now we've got a huge shift where, that's still a thing. That still happens, and that's how grassroots begin, which is fantastic. But now, obviously, quite a lot of us enthusiasts, or that, whatever you want to call that, have their own access to their own equipment. They often see, you've now got professional trainers that deliver deliver training across the country and across the world.
One-to-ones as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I feel like a lot of people prefer one-to-ones these days than classes, or whether that's just what I found or not.
I think, there has been a bit, I don't know. For me, there's a shift into the groups.
Oh, really?
I do one-to-ones, but I only teach groups now just because from a monetary perspective, it's more affluent, I suppose. But and also I find that when you're learning, I find it's easier to learn from others. And I find with my own dogs, I don't get the same level of arousal.
I know what you mean, yeah.
If the dog is working on its own, it's like, a dog is working on its own, which is great. It's good for practice, but it is good to have other dogs in the session to work with, and I think people learn well watching others as well. So
yeah, it replicates more of a competition setting as well with dogs around the ring, I suppose.
Yeah, so I don't know on that with regards to one-to-one groups or.
Yeah, but it probably depends who you ask. One of those things. There's probably no pattern.
Yeah. Okay, what else have we got on the list? When historically, when we first started at the World Championships, you used to see quite a disparity, is that the right word, between countries. So you'd be quite interested maybe when you'd watch certain countries, let's not name names, but you'd think, what are they doing? Because literally it would be totally different. How are they going to do this? Where nowadays, obviously, because of with the launch of online training and COVID and that wonderful world that we had, there's a lot more access to online training, etc. So now when we go to the World Championships, there's not that, wow, let's look at that country because what are they going to do?
Everyone's pretty much the same.
Exactly. Yeah, there's differences, but because of the education is now being able to be accessed across the globe, I feel that there's less, is that the right word, disparity between countries.
I think it is, I know what you mean.
Yeah, which is another change for me. So, that was another thing that I thought about.
Do you mean in handling styles then? Like handling techniques, different manoeuvres from the handler?
Yeah, like the way that they approach the course and their strategy to deliver the course, they wouldn't all handle it on the left like we used to.
Oh, God,
That was before my time, though.
Okay. I was going to say, even I, the first obedience club I went to with my dog, when I was like 10 years old, the trainer was like, no, he has to walk on your left. And I was like, all right. And even to this day, it feels more normal on the left because I just got used to it.
It's weird, is it? Yeah. It's like, so how, the things you learn first, the things you learn best, like, ooh.
Yeah, I know. And it's like ingrained in your head then. It's like trying to break a habit.
Dog on left. So, yes. Then the final bits I've got is just in terms of research. So you've got more access to judging. So that's where, I suppose that feeds into course design, doesn't it? Yes, so we're able to follow judging now and, rehearse courses that are going to be coming and that type. But
Facebook's very helpful for that.
Yeah, hugely, isn't it?
Honestly, there's so many courses on Facebook, like it's ridiculous.
Good, isn't it? It's good.
It's great.
So I think there's probably loads more that I've missed, but that was my main on this question. That's my main areas. I don't know if you had any questions on it.
There's actually more differences than I originally thought there'd be. For some reason,
okay.
Does that make sense? Like I have seen videos of like agility in the past and stuff, but I didn't realise there was only 2 heights. That is crazy to me. That is really crazy. Like small and large, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't remember when medium came in and why medium. I can't remember that either. I think I was a bit young.
So there was 2 and now there's 4. So they've doubled all the heights. That's crazy. Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't say
doubled all the grades.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I have any questions. I'm just more like interested. Do you know what I mean? It's like, wow, I really didn't expect that.
What?
I know, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And like distances between obstacles and stuff like that as well was huge, wasn't it? But I guess that kind of factors into more the equipment course design aspect of it, which actually does bring us on to question 2, which is how has agility equipment evolved over the years? So especially at the moment, this is quite a huge one, isn't it, amongst people? Again, on social media as well.
Yeah, which is good. I think it's great to have different things coming to the table. I'm a firm believer in change and moving things forward for the better. So it's good. It's good. So what have I got for this one? We already touched on it. So a couple of obstacles that have disappeared. So the flat tunnel, the tyre, the wishing well. Well, the tyre has changed, hasn't it? That was that.
Thank God.
Yeah, it's gone. So as I talked about in the first question, clubs to club, because lots of the equipment was handmade back in the day, it did vary significantly what you see.
No standard of it, really.
Not really. Of course, there was the regulation, but
not quite the same as today.
Yeah, the distance, the diameters, etc., was the same, but literally it could be made up with lots of different ways. So, the spec between clubs differed. But when we used to go to competitions, generally, obviously my competitions, I lived in South Oxfordshire, so I was generally lived around the south and competed in the south. So we generally just had one competition provider in the day, which was Premier. So that was mainly wood makeup, and we tended to turn up to shows and the dogs would know what you're going to get. They would know it was Premier, and they would know how it played, and they would know what to do. And we were very, Premier were a great company, and delivered great. We worked tirelessly. The team there worked really hard through the years that they were successful.
Unlike today, where the dogs are like, is it going to be this seesaw or this seesaw?
What's going to happen to Jack? Yes, that was that. That's that. We then obviously saw the evolution from wood and sand, which was Premier. There was a plastic provider as well at the time, but it was so literally just used to blow down in the wind. Everybody hated it. The poles just used to fall off.
Had to peg them down.
So it was like, so there was a plastic provider as well, but it really wasn't very good, and it often used, so it was generally, everybody had Premier, and that was it, because there was only generally one show a weekend, so Premier would deliver the competition equipment. That's simpler for them, definitely. And then the more wealthy clubs that ran bigger shows were then able to buy the Premier equipment, so then we had that equipment to train on, and then you got rid of the handmade stuff, which was brilliant. So that was that, and then so we went away, obviously, from the wood and sand. That then evolved into the plastic, the rubber. Then the anti-slip came in. So that was that.
Getting safer and safer.
Safer, exactly, safer. Apart from, there was an era when they tried, so I think Premier or one of the companies changed it into rubber. And when it got wet, oh my God, that was actually worse than it.
Oh, really? So they tried to be safe and they're actually more dangerous.
It was more dangerous when it rained.
Yeah, true. Bad. And it does rain.
It took a little while. With involvement, I suppose it takes a bit of while, doesn't it?
That's it, trial and error.
Yeah. So it's all good. So that was fine. We then obviously got the wall. That's quite a big one. That was wood to begin with. Then it turned into plastic, and now it's foam. So foam's now come along, and now I've got to get the thing to stand up.
And I was going to say, and that blows all over as well, doesn't it?
But it's safer.
Exactly.
So there we go.
I'd say the long jump's actually worse for blowing over, though. I think that's the worst thing I've ever seen blow over is the long jump.
The better with that, though, is it's like lower to the ground, so it's easier type. And if it falls over, the dogs can still jump over it. Yeah,
I suppose, whereas the wall, it's gone, isn't it?
Yeah, that's hard, traversing through that. Pillars have gone down, trying to get through. Anyway, it's all good. Visually, the equipment, from a colour perspective, I think has changed quite a bit through the time. Mainly the primary colours we used, obviously blue and yellow, knowing the colour spectrum, or a little bit more about the colour spectrum that the dog can see, although my dog eye specialist says they can't see very much anyway. I'm like, great. But so what they can see, so we tended to see, more primary colours, white, blue, yellow, to help the dogs. There was red, but obviously the Kennel Club set has always been green and white because it's the Kennel Club.
Yes.
But now we're seeing a large variety of colours, so the pinks, the purples, that. So I think that has changed significantly, and how the dog's visual on that is quite interesting, particularly when you've got a background. So, for example, if you're on a bright sunny day, yellow as you're going up the dog walk, what can they see of that?
Yeah. I mean, people thought dogs saw in black and white, didn't they? But they don't, do they? It's actually just a muted version of colour, or a darker version of colour.
Yeah.
And wasn't there something at Crufts where they brought in, I don't think they brought it in, but there was something to do with Crufts and it being green, having the green equipment on the green carpet or something. Yeah,
and the green background, maybe because the tyre is green against the green background.
Yeah, that's it. So. Yeah, and then obviously the Young Kennel Club ring, awful for weaves, because there's that white picket fencing, and it just looks like weaves, if you look across the ring.
Yeah, you just hope to God the parade, the judge puts the wheeze in the centre.
Yeah. Although on my first time at Crufts, they were in the centre, and my terrier still was like, "No, can't see them."
There's people watching. I'm not doing it today.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, it must be the fence."
It's got to be the fence.
Has to be.
Yeah, that's good. The other change obviously is from the tunnels. Tunnel surface has changed, so that's more anti-slip. For me, I'm not sure about this in terms of the colour. So with Dizzy, because she was so crazy fast, I used to have an absolute epifit. Poor Mark Saunders, GB coach at the time, I'd be like, don't you dare put that 5 metre tunnel on a 180 degree. Make sure we're putting a 6 metre tunnel in. It has to be, if you're putting a 180 on a tunnel, it has to be at least 6 metres, at least, unless you want my dog to die in it. So
can't say no then.
Yeah. Obviously, in a nice way, I would do that.
Of course.
But yeah, so the surface of the tunnel has changed. And I'm not so sure at the moment with regards to, because tunnels used to always have two-tone colours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as the dog goes into the tunnel, they can see the difference, and there's a line tracking on the tunnel.
Yeah, they're not now though, are they?
No. So yes, we have this push towards greater speed and trying to reduce the aperture or the curvature of the tunnel, is the word that I was looking for. So yeah, we're trying to, because we want more speed and But yeah, so if you actually do have a 90-degree bend on the tunnel, how much can the dog see on that?
Yeah, that's true.
It's one colour.
And even the anti-slip, wasn't there a point where they were testing anti-slip and it was like half and half? So the bottom half was anti-slip and the top half wasn't, but they were finding that when really fast dogs went through it, they'd end up on the side anyway, which was the non-anti-slip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Tunnels, great topic.
Honestly. Don't even get me started on tunnels if you're going to put them under a contact either.
I shouldn't have said it. I think that brings me to the end of my list. I think about 10 years ago, I was part of the safety committee in terms of with the Kennel Club. So I was a representative as an advisor to that, probably from my sports science perspective, and also because I was quite pedantic about it. So
as you should be.
Yeah. So in a professional way, because my previous job I used to work for Bupa, which is an organisation very similar to the Kennel Club. So a lot of bureaucracy involved within that, a lot of policy and regulation. So I generally understand business, and I understand how that works and how you have to be a little bit patient as it works through the blooming committees and then comes back down again. And I think that's quite hard to understand as an agility population. We don't want it changed and we want it changed now. And I'm all for that, but
it's not realistic.
There is reasons why certain companies work as they do, but yeah, it's changing at the Kennel Club. So yeah, so the safety committee was brought in, and it still is there. And so we are seeing changes from that. One of the big changes were the jump heights, but because there's no research, being a sports scientist, there's no research in dogs. There's very limited research in dogs. That's so what is the right height? What was the right height to put it at?
Yeah, if people were doing it, they'd already know.
Yeah, like how define what's the right height. If we're going to change it, what we're changing it to, because we don't want to change it now and then 5 years later change it again. But yeah, there needs to be change. How do you go about it?
Yeah, no, that's very true. Again, trial and error, I guess.
Yeah, well, as long as there's movement, it's
exactly.
Good. So, yeah.
Wasn't there a water jump? Wasn't there a water jump at one point?
There is. I think there might still be.
Is there?
I don't know. I think the late Graham Taylor sadly passed away, didn't he? Bless him. He had the water jump in one of his qualifiers.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember worrying. I'm thinking, Ethel's going to faceplant in it and freak herself out and never do agility again. This dog hates water, and I was like, oh God.
What would Arrow do? I reckon Toto would, if he felt like a drink. I think he'd just run up there and go, water! Drink.
I was going to say, I think he'd drink, yeah. Arrow's the kind of dog that'll start, looking for water if it's not, obviously in front of him. And it could be, something manky, and I have to, pull him away from it and be like, no, you'll give yourself a bad stomach. So, yeah, he probably would. Although, the first time I took Arrow swimming, he, being a spaniel, didn't think about what he was doing and just went for it and submerged into the lake. He was down there for about 5 seconds, popped up, freaked out. Wouldn't go near water again for months.
Oh. Bless him.
So it might, who knows, it might still freak him out, but yeah, I think he'd drink it.
Yeah, let's not mention the water jump.
Yeah.
Because the spank would be me and you and medium, we were like, no!
Yeah, exactly. We won't go there, it's not a thing. Didn't say anything.
No, crazy. Yeah, I think that exhausts my list on equipment, but again, probably missed a few. But yeah, I can't remember what the question was. What was the question again? This number 2?
It was, how has agility equipment evolved over the years? So yeah, pretty much that's all the changes in it. And then before that, I said about the distances between them as well. Obviously, much larger these days.
Yeah, I sort of covered that in the next question.
Okay.
What's the next question?
The next question is, how have safety regulations within agility evolved over the years? There we go.
You're full of them. You're full of them today. You're full of them. I'm like, okay, so we talked about equipment. So the first one that I've got on the list is the tyre. That changed multiple times. So we had the chain tyre. Remember those?
Yeah, huge big square.
Massive square, and you change, and like the dog used to hit it, and it used to like go woo.
Yeah, Ethel used to go in the little gaps, either under or around the side. I think she was like, which is the gap?
Which bit is it you want me to jump? Yeah, all good. Obviously the seesaw used to be slatted.
Oh, did it?
It was a safety thing that changed. I think I remember the seesaw being slatted.
Like the dog walk?
Like the dog walk. So imagine what happened if the dogs went faster.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
I think they removed the slats off the seesaw. That's quite a lovely change.
As they
should have maybe done the research on what years this was for you, but yeah, the seesaw was slatted, I seem to recall.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, we talked about obstacles that have been removed, contact surface changes, and we talked about the jump heights, adding more, and etc., etc. And then the biggest one for me was then the distances that changed.
Yeah,
so I think
huge.
The shortest distance was maybe 4 meters.
Okay.
At 76 centimeters.
Oh, no. I don't think Arrow would even get a stride in between that if it was 4.
No, lots of dogs just used to bounce around. So obviously now the minimum distance is 5 meters, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So not judging for a little while, and now not being qualified, which is good. No, I'm joking. That even though I judged across, it's all good. So the minimum distance is 5 meters to a maximum distance of 10. Obviously, we didn't have a maximum distance back in the day, so that's something that's changed.
Although that's crazy, imagining people putting something more than 10 meters apart. Like that's a very big amount of space.
In us little rings.
Yeah, exactly.
So I suppose all these changes were to make things safer. But my question, I suppose, to you and your following community is it safer now? Because if you look at the sport is now a lot faster than what it was before.
Yeah.
And if I put the science brain onto it, basically injuries are generally created when you slow force down. Injuries, according to research, aren't generally, and I'm having to be corrected because it was a little while ago when I went to school, but in my research when I went to school, because I don't do as much of that type of research anymore, was that basically often injuries used to occur when the force is being slowed. It's not often when it's being created.
So
now,
deceleration then.
Yeah. So now we're getting the dogs to go faster. This is fine because it's exciting and it's all good. But is it safer?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. These safety things have actually indirectly encouraged more speed, and anything going faster is less safe. Like, for example, driving a car. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you've got a better braking system, haven't you?
Yeah. And
if you need to have a braking system, you've got to have strong muscles. You've got to have strong joints. You've got to warm it up more. You've got to. So
I suppose that's why there's more emphasis probably these days. Would you say on sort of dog conditioning, strength, physio outside of agility for agility dogs? Because they kind of have to, otherwise they're just going to break.
Yeah. So I'm all for the speed, and it's really exciting and it's good, and that. But actually,
has it achieved the goal
by making it faster? Is it safer?
Yeah, it's probably not.
Who knows?
I'd argue, but it is what it is, I suppose. But thought provoking anyway. Although we do like a fast flowing course, so can't complain.
It's good.
I
Cool.
think safety's
I think that's that. I think I've come to the end on that question, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think safety is just generally a huge thing at the moment, isn't it? Like sometimes I feel like people are sort of being over cautious sometimes, but you know, it's a fine line, isn't it? But everyone's intentions are good, so.
100%. And also, you know, our canine partner, they can't talk to us really in a way. Well, they can in some regards, but they can't say, oh, this is hurting today, or you know, that type. So we have to have a voice for them, and so it is really good that but we can't get too fresh. You know, in time it will be good, I'm sure.
Yeah, I wish we could talk to them though. I really do. I wish we could just ask them, even if it's not injury wise, just why did you do that?
Yeah. Or why don't you just read the numbers? It would be a lot more simple.
Just talk them through it. Right, you're going to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Right, so this one is really interesting actually. It's, do you think the average career length of an agility dog has increased or decreased over the years, and why? Now, this is so interesting because I think, again, every dog is different. Like Ethel retired at 8, whereas, you know, Arrow, I'm hoping he's going to go till he's, you know, 12, whatever. So again, I think it's very dog dependent, but have you noticed any patterns?
I literally, do they know? Someone asked this question that knows me and knows my expertise and knows what I'm like, or is it just a blank thing? Because literally, I think this what took me the most prep time is this one. I don't know how many pages I've got on this, but my first initial reaction to when I saw your question was like, wow.
Yeah, it's a very deep question, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Like, where do I begin with this one? Was my first thing to think, and my simple answer is probably this is probably going to be quite controversial. So I'll be interested in your talking me through this as well. For the actual answer, you're probably going to need to grab a cup of tea as we work through the stages. First and foremost, for me, probably is very, as you just said, it's bit dog dependent. Yeah. But obviously, more importantly for me, it's handler, owner, and trainer dependent. For me, that it's completely reliant on that. From that perspective, so I shall turn my page. Okay, yeah, that's true. And this longevity for me is super important. So I'm very lucky in my career. I've had 5 agility dogs. 4 of them have achieved agility champion status. I have retired each of my champions. I've retired at Crufts, having one to qualify for Crufts. Dizzy was 12 and a half, Pebbles was 11, Maddie was 12. So we're looking at a big age. I think it's quite a strong age that the dog is retiring on, and I would like to hope it's the dog's not running around looking like it's half dead. It actually looks like it can win. And I often finish the round when I retire them and go, is it time? And I always remember...
it's a hard decision, isn't it?
Yeah. I always remember Steve Croxford patting me on the back when I basically finished with Dizzy, and he said, well, because I got the reserve championship by, the medium reserve championship that year by only 900ths of a second.
Wow.
And he put his hand on my back and he went, well, that was a bit lucky, wasn't it? I was like, lucky? I don't think. It's not lucky. I said, what? He said, well, it's lucky you were second, otherwise you'd have to come back next year. I was like, no!
It's not quite how it works.
That wasn't lucky. So we had a bit of laugh about that.
That's funny.
So in terms of this question, I often find myself at the moment questioning the ethics of the sport. In terms of what the dogs are being asked to do these days is hugely complex, I feel, at the higher level of speed. And I wish I didn't know all the... Am I allowed to swear?
Absolutely.
I wish I didn't know the shit that I know. I wish I could just go back to being not knowing anything whatsoever. It would be a whole lot easier.
Blissfully unaware.
Yes, it doesn't matter. So the question is quite difficult to answer. And I use, obviously for my sports science background, I use the human athlete principles and apply it to the dog. So the first stage of that for me, as we talked about, is in terms of the knowledge base. As agility enthusiasts or agility followers, our knowledge base is increasing tenfold, and that's super exciting. And the key point for me is particularly knowledge base in what I would describe as the musculoskeletal support that agility dogs have. Okay, so 20 years ago, I was one of only a couple of people that would use an osteopath, a physiotherapist, and to support my dogs with their performance. And often if my dogs were missing the weaves, it was potentially because the shoulder was out or something. But I was one of very few 20 years ago that were using tapping into this because of the sports science background. And in that time, there was not many people around that delivered this delivered this type of service.
Yeah, it wasn't as much of a career, was it, vet physio?
No.
Yeah,
like,
true.
I don't even know when that course started.
Yeah.
But you'd be a vet first. You'd have to be a vet first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So positive for us, basically, there is so much more support out there that we can get. And it's good and bad. There are good ones and bad ones. Like, you get good and
like
bad
any
doctors.
career, I suppose. Yeah.
So you have to be careful in regards to where you go and what you choose. So yes, I feel that knowledge base has significantly supported the dog to make their career longer. But also it can have a flip effect on that. Is because if you have a problem with your dog, it could actually shorten the career, because if you take it to a sports vet or you take it to a sports professional like a physio, an osteopath, or a massage specialist, a massage person, or a hydrotherapist, they might find something that you probably didn't know was there, and that then potentially could be career ending. And it depends on who you see and which vet you see as to whether it's career ending or if we can work through it.
Yeah, no, that's true. So it depends. It almost depends how you take that news or how they portray that news.
Yeah. So that can be a little bit subjective, and that's really difficult in this field of work. And that's why it's quite hard for musculoskeletal practitioners to work with each other, because the voice of their patient, they can't speak. And what happens to us is sometimes, if we're not in the right way, or we might go, well, that physio said that, and well, this physio is saying this now, well, what? Yeah. So you sort of play physios against it, which you shouldn't be doing. Like, you need to work, they need to all work together if possible. The problem is that the patient they've got can't speak, and probably neither physio are wrong, but they just, work together. So, yeah.
I mean, that even happens with humans, doesn't it? Like, you'll go to the hospital and one doctor will say this, and then a physio will say this, and then a nurse will say this, and you're like, well, what have I got?
What? So, so the knowledge base now is there. It's really cool when we can access it and help. I perceive it lengthens the dog's career, because what should be happening is that your dog probably isn't lame, but they might find something that's slightly off. So therefore, then they can support that. I call it a niggle or a slight offload, and then that then can be alleviated, sorted. Training can be stopped for a short period of time and then brought back. Where if you didn't have that level of support, you could then continue to put the loading into the dog, and therefore then it could be then
get worse. Yeah.
And then the career ends. So you've got two ends of the spectrum, haven't you? So that's my first point.
Okay.
There's more musculoskeletal practitioners to help us these days.
Absolutely.
The second point is around young dogs. So one of my key ethoses, or if that's the word, is that an agility dog only has so many jumps in it.
That's a good way to say. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I perceive that a dog can only jump so many times, or can only put a certain amount of loading through it. So when we're talking about longevity, that can be a factor. So the guidance of the Kennel Club is that the dogs don't start training until they're 12 months old. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because the dog isn't developed yet. It hasn't got the right muscles. It hasn't got the right joints. It's not able to support the speed, because it doesn't necessarily fully grow until... Well, some dogs don't stop growing until they're 18 months to 2 years, the heavier dogs. But generally, as a general rule of thumb, it's about 12 months old. And then we start competing at 18 months old. But because of the diversity and the complexity of the game right now, it takes a lot longer than 6 months to teach the dog to do this for a sport, right?
Absolutely. Especially, dare I say it, running dog walk.
I've heard that takes 2 days. What are you about? Running dog walk?
I taught it in one session.
It's easy though. So now I'm finding that dogs are trained, and not necessarily trained, but repetitive schooling on those young dogs. And from my perspective, they're running in full extension, driving at toys, they're being whiplashed through the neck, they're driving at dead toys, there's a huge amount of concussion going through their shoulders, the wrists, the neck, as they pick up the dead toys from the ground. The impact and trauma that is going through that dog at a young age by being asked to do what it has been doing is, for me, not necessarily the way that I would go about it, which is why I don't teach dogs at a young age, because I think there's so many more experiences that the dog can have, such as going to pet schools. But I understand there are good and bad ones. I'm very lucky because my pet school down the road is absolutely amazing. Perfect. And so I can go and do clicker training, and I can work in calm environments to work with my behaviours. So I am quite lucky with that regard. But there's a lot that you can do environmentally. The dog doesn't have to do heavy schooling on the agility kit.
I was going to say, I think the most important thing as well, and I found this with Arrow because he was a puppy in lockdown. I got him and then we went into lockdown. So I was like, great. So he didn't get all that, wasn't even training, just exposure.
Yeah.
And that's what gave him, I think, he probably was, already of a nervous disposition, but I think that's what gave him all his nerves because he missed out on that. And, I was doing little bits with him at home and training and stuff like that, but that wasn't the important part of it really for me.
And particularly now, if you've got like the worry, if he has anxiety about certain things, definitely, it's a huge thing. Huge.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, that's no impact, just taking them out and about, is it?
Yeah. So for me, the young dogs at the moment, I find that dogs that come out and win prolifically when they're young generally are shortened in their career.
Yeah. Okay.
But then what's right? Is it right that you have an agility champion at the age of 3 and their dog is retired at 7? Or like me, that I'm like, oh my God, the dog's crazy wild. It's 4 years old. It will not go in the right direction because I've not schooled it from a young age. But then they retire at 11.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking with Arrow. With Arrow, I'm like, well, he's 5 now, so maybe he'll get a ticket by the time he's maybe 8, and then...
No, sure.
Like, that's fine.
It's just around the corner, Summer. It's just around the corner. What are you talking about?
Fingers crossed.
But it will be, 100%. It's just around the corner for you. But so keep turning up. It's all good.
Once my foot heals.
Oh, yeah. I did hear about this, bless you.
Honestly.
Oh, so
anyway, we won't talk about that.
Threw that one aside, oh bless you. Yeah. So that's my second point. It's around young dog schooling and the impact that those young dogs are going through and the speed that they're being asked to push their bodies through in the underdeveloped form. If we think about the shoulder, that growth plate doesn't close till 8 to 10 months at least, and so the impact on that's going through that shoulder is quite significant. Hey, I wish I wasn't bred this way, but I'm like,
everything's all everything's soft and flimsy, isn't it, when they're little? Like, that can't be good for them. Yeah, that's what I mean. You can even see it in how they move when they're little, can't you? That they're not fully functioning. Bless them. But I suppose I suppose you could kind of think maybe is the career length the same, but it just depends on when. So like you said, a really young dog to, say, a 6-year-old dog, or a 4-year-old dog to a 10-year-old dog. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, is it the same career length, just at different stages? Or, like you said, is one better than the other? It's hard to tell.
Yeah, totally. So, yes. Another point for me on this is around a fitness plan. So I would say that the pet dog probably wouldn't want to overface them with a fitness plan, because the person that's not enthusiastic about the sport is going to go, what?
Yeah.
But so I would say probably maybe, I don't know, 5% of agility people have a fitness plan on their dog. But the level of fitness that now is required to compete at the high level, because of the complexity of the courses, and I talk about the backside quite a lot, because that's a multi-lead leg change, and the force is being slowed, but it is also going through rotation, and as it goes through rotation, it's then having to change again. So you're getting multi-forces as the dog goes into takeoff. And from my perspective, often we're getting an increase in hip flexor issues, back issues, and particularly the psoas muscle. So the psoas is blowing a lot. And is that did it blow before? Or is it blowing now because of the course design? Or is it blowing now because we know more? Who knows?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, it's blowing more. And why?
Yeah. I mean, every time Arrow because Arrow sees a physio every month, and they always find that his back is a bit tight. So I think, he's a long bendy dog, which probably doesn't help. But I think, when they're like going around the back and then twisting back on themselves, and it can't be great. But at the same time, that's why we've got the physios for them, I guess.
That's right. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? It's like,
exactly. We'll never know. But with the physios, do you reckon people who go to physios are more likely to have that fitness plan in place because either they've been given one by their dog's physio, or, kind of strikes a bit of a chord and they'll think, oh, this is actually quite important. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I think I'd like to hope that the physio world, we keep talking about the physio world, but there's many of the musculoskeletal world, there is many of them in there.
Yeah.
But physio is just easier, I think, because it comes off the tongue a bit more, and there's, I think, maybe more of them. Who knows? But you'd like to hope that the physios would pull a plan and help the person, and also the person that's going to them is going to be of that mindset to try and evolve, to try and move forward, unless the dog's legs hanging off.
Yeah. You'd hope not. You'd hope they'd done something else by then.
Yeah. So yeah, no, you're right. It hopefully it would be encouraged.
Yeah.
And then on the flip of that, for example, in terms of how I think I get, so the fitness plan is important for me and important for my dogs. But on the flip of that also is the amount of warm up and cool down that happens.
Yes, huge.
So for me, in the sports context with an athlete, if you were doing a more longer running cross-country type, you would do a warm-up, but it would be not as significant and not as detailed as, say, a sprinter or a hurdler or a long jumper, where the force that you're asking to be created is power. And so that often takes a lot more warm-up than, say, a longer endurance-based sport.
Yeah,
so
because you're kind of warming up as you go along, aren't you, with, like, endurance at a slower pace?
Yeah. There's an incremental way to it, and the muscles they're being stretched, but they're being stretched anaerobically, so they're more able to change as adapt as the sport goes on. But when you do sprinting or when you do jumping and when you do that type of activity, you call for the power straight off. So the chance of injury is very significant at that point. And so the warm-up and cool-down, I think, is a huge part, and it takes me forever. So, for example, if I was to do like a short jump session, maybe 3-4 minutes, so my dogs will have a 15-minute warm-up for that. They'll jump for 3 to 4 minutes, and then I'll have a 10-minute cool-down. So I will do 25 minutes of warm-up and cool-down for 5-minute jump drill. Yeah,
and even it shows, same thing it shows, it's like 30 seconds worth of a run, but I've already been doing things for like 20 minutes previously. But for me, it's kind of like, that's part of my mental prep in a way, because I'm like, right, I'm doing my routine, I'm in my little zone, like this is comfortable and familiar. So no, definitely it's important.
Oh yeah. So so I think I've got to the end of that point. It wasn't actually that bad. It wasn't that long.
No, yeah. That long. Nice and compact there.
Yeah. I suppose so in conclusion with that, is the career length, was the question, has the career lengthened? What was the question again?
Do you think the average career length of an agility dog has increased or decreased? So yeah, lengthened or shortened, I suppose.
Yeah. So I think probably looking at that, although it's not specific to my dogs, because my dogs have always maintained the same length, touch wood, I would say that we have, number one, more musculoskeletal practitioners to support us, so a better knowledge base from that regard. And I think as an agility community, we are now more knowledgeable in this area, although that's not very helpful sometimes. Because you're like, it shouldn't move like that. Why is it moving like that?
We're our own worst enemies with it.
Yeah, totally. Obviously, the speed increases in the sport has increased the force, and so therefore, that's the thing. You've then got the young dog factor in terms of the complexity of how much we're having to teach now to get the dog ready for competition, because it's more complex as a sport, and the impact to the young dogs by schooling through excess force at a young age. And then the fourth point for me would be the fitness plan. So those four things, is it longer or shorter? I would probably say now, having gone through it, it's probably shorter now than what it was before.
Yeah, because of all those things that have changed. You said that your dogs, or a few of your dogs, are retired at about 12. Is that kind of the average for your dogs, you find? And I guess as well, it depends on the breed and the size and everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've had border collies. I had a Belgian Shepherd, was my first like rehome type. When I was younger, I used to run other people's dogs, and that was so I had a Belgian Shepherd. She retired at 11 she was. And then obviously we've got the lovely Spaniel. Yes. So we'll see what happens with him.
Absolutely. Amazing. So next one's a bit more of a light-hearted one. So it's, what is your favourite event within agility and why? So I'm guessing shows, what show do you like to go to the most?
Okay. So I was like, favourite. Favourite. What's the favourite?
About to be hated by so many show organisers.
Anyway, I didn't think about the question in terms of shows. I thought for me, the big four events are the World Championships, the Kennel Club States, or Olympia. Well, how do you want to call that? Casey States?
We'll just call it Olympia. It's in my head.
We're going to call it Olympia.
It's ingrained in my head.
You then got Crufts, and you've got the European Championships. So for me, they're the big four.
Yeah, there's too many shows to pick between all the normal shows, isn't there?
Yeah, hard. And almost like, oh God, how am I going to fit all the runs in? Oh no.
Yeah.
Anyway, and for me, those 4 events are special for individual reasons. So I think I struggled with the word favourite. I was like, which one's a favourite?
Yeah, because they're all so different, aren't they?
Yeah. So I started off with the World Championships because for me that's the best in the world.
Yes, yeah, no question really.
Because you've got the countries participating, and the way to play the game for the World Championships, it's not just one round. You can't just go around once and win.
Yeah.
You have to win. You have to run 2 rounds. Both rounds have to be really good, very good.
More of a consistency approach.
Yeah, you're looking at consistency and also speed, because if you go slow, you're not going to get the margin for the next round.
True.
So you've got to push a little bit. And although it's limited to pedigrees because it's the FCI, I still feel that it's the best of the best, because generally that's across the globe, that's the one that everybody wants to win generally.
Yeah.
I feel. The other reason for me is that it is the best in the world, and not necessarily favourite. I'm not saying favourite. I'm just saying it's the one that everybody wants to win.
Yeah, no bias.
No bias. For me, it's that pressure element. So the expectation of the next round. So if I set the scene, for example, I won the individual jumping 5 times. So I led overnight 5 times. And the feeling when you go through those pens and literally you can hear a pin drop because it is silent.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And then they're like, right, it's Natasha Wise and Dizzy and they're going to do a thing. You're like, fuck, that expectation.
Yeah.
And also, like, in the morning when you're brushing your teeth, you're like, I gotta go on the line in a bit.
Yeah, it'd almost be better if it was, well, not better, but less stressful if it was on the same day. I don't know how you slept that night. I really don't.
Oh, crazy. Especially when they always put medium, like, in the morning on the Saturday and then in lunchtime on the Sunday.
So you have all day just to wait for it.
Hell of a wait. So for me, that expectation, that pressure, that building, there's no other event like that.
Yeah.
Really.
I feel like you're either someone that like thrives under that kind of pressure, or you just crumble. I feel like you're either one. So
one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's that one. Olympia, the thrill of the crowd there is nothing else like it. So, and also the test of that course is so fun because literally you don't know how it's going to go down, because they've got like a minute and a half to build it. They literally chuck the kit in and they go.
Don't you get like a silly short amount of time to walk it as well?
Yeah, like we go around twice. Wow. I literally would probably be better if I didn't bloody walk it.
Oh, my memory could never, yeah.
And they give us as long as it, but that's what we go for.
Yeah,
that's
true.
What that is about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So that oh shit moment that I was talking about in terms of the pressure, for me, I describe that as the oh shit moment. Okay. That's not very long lasting. It's about 10 minutes because they throw the course down, they go do it, and you go, oh shit, right, it's done.
Oh, I literally got no looking back now. Now or never.
And then it's happy Christmas and it's forgotten. Done.
True, yeah. And then it's January and then it's onto crufts and all sorts.
Yeah. So I love Olympia. Like, I would describe it probably as one of my favourites because of that thrill of the crowd.
Yeah, true. Atmosphere.
So yes, that was that. Then we obviously, the third one for me I had to talk about was crufts. So there's nothing quite like the kudos of crufts. They're having the cameras there, the lights, the music, the supercharged event that is. It's different to the Olympia, but it's crufts. It's the theatre of dogs, you know.
Yeah, so, it does feel like that actually, doesn't it? In the main arena, a theatre.
Yeah, the theatre a little bit. So the music and the respect. That struggled a little bit in my judging era, and obviously we're seeing a shift in culture from crufts because of the TV and what the production team are trying to do with that. So I had a bit of an issue when I judged at crufts to keep it safe, and I did actually have to cool them down and have a meeting about it because they were trying to turn it into Diddy Dog time, and I had a dog in front of me that has flown across the world from America, and they were pushing me on time, and I was like, the course is not fair. And my responsibility as a judge is to make sure this course is fair for the first dog as it is for the 30th dog. And I don't give a shit who is in my ear telling me I've got to go faster because I need to get a faster time schedule and we need to get the next event in. I'm sorry, I am the judge, and I need to make sure that the contest is fair. So they did try to change it into Diddly Dog Time. I said, you can save that for the Olympia. We love it there at Olympia. But
not Cross,
it's
not
the
here.
Kennel Club, and the Kennel Club created this thing. So you need to think about what you're trying to achieve here.
Yeah.
So that was that. And then obviously it's special because you get all the interviews, you get the pictures, often narrate, you know, we have radio interviews after, that type of stuff. You get on TV.
Yeah, it's like a big marketing spiel, isn't it?
Yeah, like you get old this morning and on, oh God, I got myself into trouble because I had to go into like Russell Howard Good News. I didn't have a clue what I was going into. Oh my God, I was
terrifying.
like, what am I doing here? But yeah, so I got myself into lots of tricky situations after winning Cross, so that's different.
And then you always come out of the ring as well, like sweaty, hair all over the place, like breathing, like, and then they want to come and interview you, and you're like, no, I'm not ready for the camera.
Yeah, like,
I can't even breathe.
Where's the toilet? I'm covered in crap.
Yeah. Oh.
No. And then the final one that I mentioned was obviously the European Championships. In my day, internationally with Dizzy, I didn't do that until 2015 because it was always rumoured as such a shit event.
Oh, really?
Because it's always outside, bad weather conditions. It's run by the host nation, so it's a lottery as to what organising committee you're going to get for it, how they're going to put it together. It's like, so back in the day, it wasn't as good. So, but now I'm irritated because I haven't got as many caps as what I could have had because I didn't do 6 European Championships.
True, yeah, you could be on your 30th cap by now.
Well, I'm not that old, but yeah, no, I'm joking. So for me, that event is still cool. Like, it's still amazing to win it. And in recent years, like, the organising committees have done a fantastic job with that, and it's really evolved, and it's now definitely a hugely respected tournament. So the thing, what else? It's nice, but for me, it's not the best because it can, you can get that one-hit wonder dog that delivers the round because you can to qualify for the final. You only have to convert one round. So for me, that's more. It's not necessary. It's more of a fluky win rather than a real win.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, there's not the same amount of consistency. I mean, you still have to be consistent to an extent, but not. Only within 30 seconds, not within, like you said, a couple of days.
Yeah. And also, but massive respect for those that have been successful there. But, it's just not for me. But the thing about the Europeans that I really love is the team competition.
Ah, yes.
I love team event. I absolutely love team event. I thrive in it. There's nothing greater than working with individuals to try it as a common goal. I love it. I've always been really good at sport through my, in my schooling years. So I love a team game.
Yeah.
But, so that, for me, the European Championships. And then having that course map, basically, when you get the course map, you have to play your dog to the strengths of the course. So you select which dog you're going to run on that course, don't you?
Yeah, true.
And
it's more like a game, isn't it? Which makes it fun. Yeah, that's true.
So for me, I really love that event because of that one. But I think my fate,
if you had to choose.
My favourite, hard one.
Potentially world champs.
The best one is the world champs. Everybody wants to win that one.
Yeah, we'll go for that one. Definitely on the bucket list anyway for me.
You'll be there. You'll be good.
Looks exciting. Right, so do you think it is harder to succeed in agility nowadays than in previous years, and why? Now, again, I suppose success is relative, but, as far as typical winning championships and stuff like that, what do you reckon?
Okay, so for this, I would say the challenge. What have I put? Challenge is. Okay, so because it's more complicated as a sport these days, I would say it's harder. It's the greater challenge is in the skill set. So it's more complicated to teach. To be successful, it's more complicated to teach your canine partner to deliver to the level that it needs to deliver at. Example being the complexity of jumps that we've talked about.
Yeah.
You've got the contacts these days. You've got the injury management, the training plan, and all that jazz that comes along with it. So I would say working with the dog nowadays is more challenging.
Okay.
But I feel that you have the same volume of competitors.
Yeah.
So you've got the same 6 people that are probably going to win.
Yeah. Same pool.
there's the same. It's not the same people. Don't get me wrong. Like it's not the same 6 people 20 years ago that were with today.
But there's always going to be that top few people.
Yeah, there's still only 6. There's only like 6, and there might be, if those 6, if the course is different or has a funny challenge in it, then you might get the outsider win. But generally for me, so I say the volume of contenders are the same, but the skill set that we're teaching is more challenging.
Yeah, okay. So it's probably more difficult to master personally, if that makes sense, or train away from competition nowadays. But then when you actually get to competition, it's pretty similar as far as beating other people.
Yeah, because it's the same, for me, the same volume.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You got your 820 dogs still like you did 20 years ago.
And they're all going to be broken because they haven't got a physio.
Yeah, that's it.
I also put down about, because we're going faster now, the margin of error is greater because the dog is running faster. So the chance of, I don't know, getting something wrong because you're running at bigger speed is harder.
And you've got less time to save things, haven't you? If something's about to go wrong, you've got like the splittest second to save it. Yeah,
you've got to save it.
Yeah,
Done. So
in my case, usually arrow.
Oi! I do need this. Oi, come on.
Yeah. It works.
It works. All good. So that was a shorter one, I thought.
Yeah, no, to be fair, that makes sense. I kind of looked at that question, I was like, oh, that's another in-depth one, but no, it's pretty simple, I reckon. So do you think there is a bigger emphasis on handler fitness nowadays than in previous years, and why? So this is interesting with your background in sort of the human side of it as well.
Okay, yeah. So, right. For me, with dogs and dog agility, light travel, from a science perspective, light travels faster than sound. The reaction times to a light stimulus or a movement stimulus is quicker than a hearing stimulus.
Yeah.
So therefore, basically, I would say that when a dog is taking information from a handler, the primary source of information is from the body language, and the secondary source is from a verbal perspective, providing that the handler is up and with the dog.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
Yep, I think so. Yep, I get what you mean.
But obviously you've got dogs that learn the verbals, and that's amazing. But it's because dogs they're just so clever. And what you can teach them. But it does, to teach the verbal, I think it requires a higher level of schooling and more repetitive training than potentially to teach the dog to respond to the body language.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because there's so many people that distance handle like amazingly these days.
Oh my God.
I almost think that's more impressive in a way, because I'm like, oh my God, you literally know, like the dog is going off purely your voice.
But I love it. It is amazing.
It's so cool. And like, sometimes I think, if I was stood in front of a jump or a tunnel, I could point at it and say bananas, and Aaron would be like, oh, she probably wants me to take that. Whereas if you're nowhere near, do you get what I mean? They've got to listen to you.
So cool.
Yeah.
I love watching it. It's really good. So based on that, potentially, in terms of correlating it to handler fitness, I feel that the dog potentially will go faster around a course. And I'm generalising, if the dog is dragged round, or if the handler is moving faster because the dog is chasing the handler.
Yeah, a bit more
drag. You're going to get a faster performance in that way. There are the odd occasions where dogs are amazing and they're so fast and they have so much inward motivation for themselves that they drive the course on their own, and they are still super fast. But generally, if you're up with the dog is generally going to move quicker because they're receiving the information from the handler and the body language quicker than potentially they can receive a verbal.
Yeah, it's a bit more obvious.
Maybe. So okay. So then, and with the courses being more technical nowadays, obviously the handler position can support that technicality and can create more success if they are closer to the dog than if they're further away. But I have, as we've just talked about, I've had huge admiration for those that can do that on a verbal scenario.
Definitely.
So from that, weighing all that up, for me, there is a big emphasis on handler fitness nowadays to create those winning margins. Because if you're more likely to be with the dog, you're then more likely to be able to show your line more productively, and so therefore more likely to be able to achieve a clean run.
Yeah, okay.
And the dog is likely to be, I would say the dog would generally, as a general rule, go faster if it's in chase than if it's driving alignment on its own.
So again, it's kind of another way to keep up with the higher demands of how fast it is these days, in a sense.
Yes.
And get an edge on the competition, I suppose.
Yeah. And like when you think handler fitness, like sometimes you say fitness, it's like about running. Oh God, I've got to run in.
Yeah, it could be anything, couldn't it, if you just use that word?
It's not like fitness, agility fitness is not really that. It's more strength and power and movement. Yes, there is an element of cardiovascular in there, but we were only running for 40 seconds, so the aerobic system doesn't actually start working.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
so
why
off on your 5K runs, not doing a lot.
No, it does help. It totally helps with recovery and all that. But it drives me insane. Like when you come over the line, you literally can hardly breathe. And someone goes, "Oh, not very fit, are you?" I'm like, "Do you actually fucking know?" Like, what you're not working aerobically when you run around an agility course, really. You're suddenly just moving into aerobic work.
The worst thing for me is when people say, "Oh, you're young, you're fine, you're young and fit, you're fine." I'm thinking, I'm still dying at the end of a run. Like, I don't feel any different. Like,
you're not helping right now.
No.
So yeah, I don't know. That was the main bit. The other thing, I haven't got anything else really on that. I have to warm up. I feel like we have to warm up more now, but we talked about that earlier.
Yeah, again, just because we're going faster, I guess, moving, changing direction. It's a lot of football kind of drills, isn't it? Like you see the footballers do.
Yeah, move, quick moving direction, etc. So, yeah, and answer your question, I do feel it has a heavy, it is increasing in its emphasis nowadays, but that's because within margins, so the margin that you're looking at, because you've got the involvement of training, the access to training, you're looking at basically the within margins between each competitor are getting so narrow now. People are having to use other sources of things like
that's it, to
create the edge against their competitor.
Okay, so maybe people just didn't really think about it before because it wasn't as necessary, whereas now they're like, right, I need to do something else.
And also the courses weren't as complicated, were they? And they weren't as fast.
True,
so generally the dog will work around you, where now we're doing 240 metres sprinting, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's what the length is,
While talking and shouting and change direction.
And trying to remember the course and all that jazz.
Honestly, multitasking at its finest. Don't know how we do it.
Why do you do this again?
Honestly, why do we put ourselves through the trauma?
What? Let's do cards. Play cards. Yeah. It might be easier.
Okay, so where am I? What has been your biggest challenge as an agility handler, and how did you overcome it?
Wow, what another super question. Very good questions, guys. So for me, I started to go and talk about it from a personal perspective, and I thought, well, listening to your viewers might, they understand my personal side, my personal challenges, and we can go through my personal challenges, that's fine. So I've broken it into personal challenges, and then I've also talked about it in terms of the general agility community. Okay. So personally, my biggest challenge, I've had probably 4 in my career as an agility handler. The first one was when I didn't, basically as a junior handler, I used to run everybody else's dogs, and I went to university. And when I came out of university, I then selected my dog. It was the best. The breeding of the dog was fantastic. And basically at 13 months, I used to take it to hydrotherapy, and the centre wasn't very well regulated. And basically the dog took on too much water in its hydrotherapy session.
Oh, God.
And between exit of the water to the dog dying, it took 90 minutes. Wow. And I was weighted. I'd been in agility since the age of 8. And I was now 21, and I had this dog that was going to be my best dog. And so for me, that grief, awful. Yeah, that grief that I went through was quite significant. And everything generally happens for a reason, and I do genuinely run that ethos. But yeah, that was pretty intense in terms of grief to deal with. But on the back of that,
unexpected as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was quite difficult and at the time. But yeah, so hyponatremia, water intoxication is a thing. And obviously I worked at Bupa in those days. So one of my doctors, we had a really hot London Marathon that year, and the same thing happened. A number of people that ran the London Marathon basically became really sick due to water intoxication because they refueled with water instead of an isotonic drink. So the balance of salt and water in the body became unbalanced, and they went into a coma, which was what happened to my dog. My dog went into a coma. It was about an hour after exit of the water. And on her blood results at the time, the only thing that they showed was it was potassium that was low, which is a salt. They then gave her the potassium drug, and that then pushed her into cardiac arrest, and that's when she died. I can talk about it now quite matter of fact because it was 25 odd years ago.
True.
But at the time, it was actually that long. But anyway, it was actually 20 years ago probably. So I can talk about it quite matter of fact because I quite like people to learn about that and what happened, because there's lots of hydrotherapy centres opening.
Yeah, they're popular, aren't they? Loads of people take their dogs to them now.
Throwing toys on the water line. To do it well takes a lot of time and effort, but to do it poorly, you can create quite a lot of money doing it poorly. Yeah. But actually, it's a dog killing exercise, and so hey ho. But
yeah, I suppose when they go to grab the toy, they're literally just eating the water essentially. Yeah. And
my dog was obviously my dog Blaze. Her brother was Dave Munnings' Dobby.
Okay.
And we used to train them together.
Oh, right.
And at the same age, Blaze was showing better because she's a girl, and I think girls develop quicker than boys. So Dobby was amazing, don't get me wrong, but her technical ability at that age was a lot better than Dobby's. And so Dobby was amazing, and I love that dog. He is so cool. But yeah, so that was quite tough. So she had the post-mortem, and I worked at Bupa, so my South African doctor was like, you need to look at that. And then one of the top vets from Cambridge University also supported me to gain closure and understand what actually happened to the dog, to know why did that happen. Anyway, we've gone off on a tangent. I wasn't really ever going to say that. So that was the biggest challenge. But from that came a happy ending, and then I got dizzy, and that, and then it bloody didn't grow. So it was a little dwarf, and she wasn't really a dwarf.
But then she was amazing, so it's fine.
That was fine. That was a happy ending on that.
Exactly.
Anyway, so back. Personally, my three biggest challenges. So that was one challenge that I had to overcome. But excuse me. But my three current biggest challenges are equaling. My first one is equaling. So when you prolifically win, as you do, basically, if you go back to the drive to achieve that win again, it's never ever going to be as good, I don't perceive, the first time.
Yeah, true.
One of the biggest challenges that I have in my motivation is equaling. So when the drive to succeed isn't as great because you're only equaling. And so that for me is a challenge. Oh, it's a challenge. But I've managed to do it with multiple dogs, and and I achieved one of my key aims is to achieve the best from every single dog that I own, which is why I don't have many dogs. And I have a few, but I generally have 5 years between my dogs, because that means that I have time to be able to stand by each and every one to achieve the best.
Yes,
because if you have another one that's coming along and it's slightly better than that one, you drop that one to put that one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that, but that can happen.
Yeah. Everyone keeps saying to me, "Oh, Arrow's 5, you're getting another." I'm like, not yet. In my head, Arrow is still 2.
Yeah, and also because of COVID, I think it happened. Go back to the many jumps thing. He hasn't got as many jumps.
Yeah,
he hasn't had as many jumps.
Exactly.
There you go. So yeah, equaling is one of my biggest challenges.
Yeah, okay.
In the psychology of that. In COVID, I found COVID quite difficult personally. Post-COVID was hard for me because with Pebbles, she was an amazing dog, and I trained that dog to like perfection for everything. And so when you invest that much time and energy into a dog, and then for it to be stripped for 3 years of its career, for the best 3 years of its career, was a bit like,
COVID.
Is it really worth it?
Yeah.
So currently that's where I'm struggling a little bit with my own training motivation, but obviously I have the skills to be able to flip that round. But yeah, so that for me, post-COVID and losing those years on Pebbles internationally was quite significant. She achieved team medals, and she came 5th at the European Championships. But she did have the World Championships she was fit at. She had those 5 jumps, and they were all backsides.
Oh, yay. That was the one. Yeah.
That was the one. So brilliant. So the World Championships I did have, it was that. And I did do 2.
Typical.
One of them she did have a little bit of a niggle for, but it was only minor. So she wasn't performing at her best, but she was still one of the best, which was good. So that was that. And then obviously the third biggest challenge that I personally have is I got a diabetes baby a couple of 18 months ago. So I was diagnosed as type 1 diabetic.
All right.
Back in June 23. That is difficult.
Yeah, I bet. I don't really
So-
know how it works, but I can't imagine it's easy.
It's okay. So, basically, diabetes is when it's all about metabolism and it's about taking energy. So my body doesn't have a pancreas anymore. It walked off in COVID. Brilliant.
It
So
left you, it got up and abandoned you.
I thought I was just getting older, or they were like, oh no, all my friends were like, oh no, you're just tired and you're just going slow because you're getting to your menopausal. I'm like,
Oh God.
am I?
Nah,
Really?
nah. You know when something's up though, don't you?
I was like, I can't run as fast as I used to. Fucking hell, I'm a snail. What's going on? What's happening? So yeah, in diabetes, what happens is I don't have the biological ability now to take the sugar from the food and put it into my muscles.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't have the biology to do that. And also, when you run a high blood sugar, that's negative for your longer term health, but also you can get brain fog. So I went to Crufts in 2023 March. Yeah. And I kept getting to obstacle 12. I'd be like, I don't know where I'm going. I can't remember the course.
Oh God, I was going to say that's a nightmare for remembering courses, isn't it? You wouldn't want to go to Olympia with that.
Yeah, great.
Oh my God.
So yeah, so it's a little bit of a, I don't know how fit people manage it, if I'm quite honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, bless them. So yeah, that's probably one of my current biggest challenges that I'm experiencing, particularly when I've got a little black spaniel that likes me to run everywhere.
Yes. Oh God, yeah.
So yes, that's currently what I'm working through. So, but then that keeps things into perspective, because at the end of the day, I could be dead. Because there's many worse things.
So true.
So at the
It's
moment,
all about perspective, I guess.
So trying to keep myself alive, but also I get massively upset if I don't deliver for my dogs. So on the day, if I don't work the insulin or the injections correctly, and I then go on a low and I time that at the same level that I'm supposed to be running a champ run, I could faint.
So you've got to time it right.
Or I could drop into a coma, or I could, so we've got this constantly moving ball.
So it's not just about, not performing as well in agility. It's like, no, you could literally just like pass out.
Happy days.
Yeah, that's a big perspective thing, definitely.
So
big picture. Wow.
And the hardest sport as well is like squash, and also stress is massive, because so when you become stressed on the approach to an agility run, your cortisol, your adrenaline starts. Your adrenaline starts up. That then triggers the sugar from the liver. So then you get a huge sugar rush. So the blood glucose goes up, and then it spikes. So so then I can't. Anyway,
so then your brain's all over the place. Wow.
That's
that makes it even more impressive though, in a way. It's like, wow. Every time I see you run now, I'm going to be like, wow. Even more wow.
Thanks.
Know all the behind the scenes.
So personally, they're probably my 3 biggest challenges that I've had, apart from the bereavement early days, but I've got a success story from that. But equaling post-COVID because of Pebbles and the diabetes is probably the biggest challenges from an agility perspective.
What was it, the tiredness in when you were running in the brain fog that made you think you had something and got diagnosed then? Is that what it was?
This is a funny one. So what happened was I had this bloody urine infection.
Okay.
I was like, and it happened in May. When is the worst possible time? I don't think there's the best time, but Nottingham, Hinkley, Thames, you sort of need to be at the top of your game for the year.
And that happens,
then, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah. Up starts the urine infection. I'm
Typical.
like, yeah. So, okay, I was like, okay, I just drink a bit more water, it will flush it through. I goes up to SKC for the championships. I was literally dying. I was so thirsty. I drank like 2 litres of orange juice.
Oh my God.
I was pissing for England. I literally felt like shit. I couldn't move. I was like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah, there's something wrong.
Yeah, and I had to run 2 dogs back to back, because up there you've got the large, the intermediate and the medium going at the same time. Fortunately, the toilet was really close.
Oh God. Not one of those venues where it's a 5K walk there and back.
Yeah, no, it wasn't one of them. It was all good. The dogs were drawn back to back, and I did amazingly that day. Toto won the championship, and Pebbles was second.
Oh, nice.
Beaten by Banana. So, you know,
Perfect.
happy days. But I felt like shit.
Yeah.
Gets back. So drove back home from Scotland on the Monday, and on Tuesday I thought, I still got this urine infection. Better rock up to the GP. So I went to the GP, and they're like, oh yeah, you got a urine infection. And they gave me some antibiotics. And then on Friday I was like, so then it was Friday before Nottingham, the bank holiday weekend. So my sister said to me, you need to go back to the doctors if you still got symptoms. Like, this is not good, go back. I went back to the doctors, and I was the annoying 4:00 afternoon on a Friday bank holiday weekend.
They hate to see you coming.
Walked in and they were like, yeah, you got urine infection, but you've also got glucose in your urine, and it's +3, and that's the highest that it can be. So I just need you to do like a finger prick test. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Thinking it'd be fine,
like,
yeah.
Blood glucose of 23, needs to be under 9. A&E.
Just a bit out then. Yeah. Oh God.
That's
just
why
like that.
I was like, what? No, I said, it's okay. It's just because my students have brought me colonic acid, okay? I said, that's why my glucose is high. Don't be ridiculous.
I'm an agility trainer. Cake's part of the ritual.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So, okay. So the NHS are amazing. They were amazing. I got fast track straight in. I was moved into this waiting area. There's probably 30 people in there. I was thinking, shit, I'm in for a wait. Oh no, the next doctor that became available, I was straight in. And he was putting a catheter in to basically put a drip in. And I was like, I've got to be on the line tomorrow. I've got to run across singles at 8:30 in the morning. So it's now 7 p.m. So I need to get out here pretty pronto. He said to me, you ain't going nowhere, because if you don't stay here, you're going to die tomorrow. So let's just get this in perspective.
You're like, no, priorities, cross singles.
I need to run across singles.
I will run.
So, yeah.
God, yeah.
So I was discharged that. I trained the doctors how to take my blood, because I can't inject myself. Poor Matt has to inject me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he has a lot. His remit is added.
Just part of his routine now.
It's not. I'm working on it, but yeah. So that was the diabetes baby, and there it is. That stayed. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's that days of, oh no, it's not really. They've got it wrong. I'm sure they've got it wrong.
Yeah, okay, it can't be. It's a mistake.
Basically, I'm medically this skinny. I'm this skinny because I'm diabetic.
Oh, wow. God, that's a fair few challenges there. I also find it interesting how you sort of went towards sort of challenges that aren't dog training related, if that makes sense.
That's
I quite like that. Yeah, that's it. I kind of expected more of a, running dog walks, or this dog didn't like to weave. But I love this. That's
Sorry.
great. No, that's brilliant.
I find that easy shit.
I much prefer that. That's great.
Okay.
Not the fact I don't prefer the fact that you had challenges, but more interesting to talk about, isn't it?
Thank you. I did. So when I was like, I didn't expect to go on too long, so I do apologise. But
fine.
In terms, I said at the introduction of this question, I said it became a bit about my personal challenges, because obviously, as with my depth of experience and knowledge, generally the training I can generally fix, and the way that I approach the sport can generally fix everything. So that's why I went more personal. But in terms of the support for your listeners, I would probably say the biggest challenge in terms of an agility enthusiast that you probably go through is to maintain your intrinsic motivation. So you have two motivation types. One is intrinsic and one is extrinsic. And your intrinsic motivation is the core reasons why you do things. So the joy of the sport of the dog, what you do with it, the mastery of the skill of the jumps, the skill of the dog walk, that is the core. Maintaining an active lifestyle, the things that you can control, you have a direct impact. You can't control the dog, but you have that's intrinsically motivated. Yeah. And then what happens is, if you become extrinsically motivated, i.e. you're too focused on the competition or who you're going to win, what you're going to win, who you're going to beat, that's a recipe for a disaster.
Yeah,
because
in your head.
There's only one winner, and you can become very, very sad if you only reward and have motivation in this area.
Yeah.
So the biggest challenge as an agility handler that we have, I feel, is to maintain your intrinsic motivation. To focus on the controllable factors, and how you measure your progression and how you measure how you master skills is important. So if you focus on winning, the moment the moment I always say to myself, or I say to my students or people that I know, the moment you think that you've made it is the moment that you just lost it. Because if you think you're the dog's dinner, or you think you're the best at this thing, you now just are not.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Especially, I think another thing that's quite hard, or a lot of people might find hard, is, which you've probably had before as well, is when you have like a period of, or a few periods of winning success, you know, prolonged success, and then it's almost like the pressure to maintain that, and, you know, if you don't maintain that, feeling, you know, like you said, sad or bad about yourself or stuff like that.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, people get really like cocky in this sport, and I think, really? Because you're only as good as the dog on the end of the lead at the end of the day. It's the dog that gets the title, not you. Yeah. It's not you. Yeah. You might facilitate it, but you're not the winner.
Yeah, that's why agility's not an Olympic sport, isn't it? Because it's technically the dog.
Yeah. And you're not attached to it.
Yeah. I still want to see agility in the Olympics though.
Well, they're working on it with cats, aren't they? But who knows?
True, yeah. One day. Hopefully within my career.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, that's incredible. Right, where am I? I've completely lost where I am now.
Sorry.
Okay, there we go. 9. So, which of your dogs has been the most challenging and why?
Right, this one. I actually felt a bit uncomfortable, like, reading that.
Oh, really?
Oh, God. I need to maybe talk negatively about one of my dogs. And, yeah, I can talk negatively about my dogs. It's fine. But, yeah, in terms of agility, I'm like, So, because at the end of the day, the dog can present challenges. But for me, the dog only does. They don't hold any malice.
No.
They don't go out there. They don't have a second motive and go, oh, I might be like this today. Because at the end of the day, they only do what you've trained them. Yeah. Or they only do what you've environmentally exposed them to. You know, so it is. So yeah. So that was a bit like. So I suppose from my training experience and the way that I approach the sport, forward thinking, that type of scenario. For me, training challenges sometimes they're harder to fix if you've got an ingrained behaviour that is very difficult to get rid of, because what they learn first, they learn best. So it's hard to ingrain that behaviour. That can sometimes be challenging. But for me, I sound it as if it's like really easy. It's not easy, but often things are easily fixable if it's a training thing.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but for me, the hardest, the most challenging dogs that I've had are the ones that have poor health. If the health is not strong, then for me, then we run into challenges because of that. So
hard to train.
Yeah, because there's an extra thing on board that's maybe affecting the dog's ability to perform to the level it's performing. From my perspective, it's been health, because Jive, which I talked about having four champions out of 5. That 5th dog, she was amazing. Black and white border collie, long-backed, struggled physically, but obviously I had my team to look after her in that regard. But she, from the age of 2.5, she could never ever. She was always incontinent.
Oh, really?
She used to pick for England. Yeah, and so I placed back in 2011. She underwent, I think, $7,500 of investigative work. It wasn't invasive. It was like investigative to find out why this dog was running a urine infection. Why? And basically, the conclusion was the 2.5-year-old female has a pre-existing what was the words they used? Is basically susceptible to urine infections. Oh. And they're seeing it more in the female border collie. So that's it.
That's it. Oh, all right.
Yeah. So she ran she was then, obviously, because with antibiotics, dogs become immune to certain antibiotics. There was only one antibiotic that would touch it. And I used to give her D-mannose, which is a natural sugar that would then go into the urine, and then the E. coli would go onto the sugar, and then she'd piss it out.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've ever been around anybody with urine infections, but they older people go mental when they have urine infections for a long time.
Oh no,
I used to go.
I think I have heard of that though, because it was interesting actually what we were talking about the psychology and stuff behind agility and stuff. That does interest me quite a lot, and I was actually listening to a podcast about psychology not that long ago, and that rings a bell. I think I did hear like brain fogginess and can't think straight because of a urine infection.
Yeah,
and it's saying
Yes. So that in terms of my biggest challenge, that with Jive, that her name was Jive, that was quite hard to deal with. Never quite sure. I mean, she was amazing. She qualified. She won at Olympia. She won the novice round. Sorry, at Olympia. She competed at Crufts many times. She was on the GB squad, so she was great. Yeah. But she just didn't achieve agility champion status. And for me, that is my measure of how I've achieved for a dog. If I can get it to be a champion, that is the goal for me.
Yeah.
Okay. And then currently I have Kiki, is my sick dog that I'm currently striving to achieve agility champion status with. She is she's got a number of autoimmune issues that go on. So she is Addisonian. So she has Addison's, and so she is on steroids, and that can affect the brain a little bit. So I often find she's a bit crazy a little bit when she goes to work, but it's not an excuse, and we're trying to work through as best we can. But yeah, and she also has keratosis, which is an eye issue. So her visual acuity has just been checked by the specialist, and he says no, dogs. That's when I said dogs can't see anyway. So there's no biological reason as to why potentially her visual acuity is different, because I'm struggling a little bit with the Gallican weaves when we're outside.
Okay.
When we're outside in Dog Sports Derby, when it's dark, so dark background, light weaves, she nails it. When we are outside and she's coming at massive speed, I mean, she don't slow down anyway when I say stuff, but she goes faster. I think it's the thing about my dogs. I never train
whatever
speed.
You say, they'll do the other thing.
Yeah, the fuckers just go faster. And if I actually trained speed, I'll have a problem, I think. But yeah, anyway, so that's what I'm currently working on. So the hardest challenge for me is when the dog has something health-wise wrong with it.
Interesting. Again, not like a training issue with the equipment or skills or anything like that. It's more like things even deeper than that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because often people say, like you said, oh, my dog's just like this, or, won't learn this, or it's sticking its middle finger up at me. Like, you hear that a lot, don't you? But really, like I said, most things can be fixed through training, no matter the dog, really.
Yeah.
Unless, obviously, the health problems.
Yeah. That's what's cool about the sport. Like, it's so multi-dimensional. That's the right word, I don't know. Like, it's so many. It can be really simple, but it also can be super complicated. So it's as complicated or as simple as you want to make it. But
yeah, lots of different levels.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what else to put there. Yeah. So for me, there should be an improvement when you're doing training, or there should be an improvement. If there's no improvement, then you need to look at the health. You need to look at the physical side of the dog. Is there a physical reason why this dog can't do it? Or is there a problem with my training method? But generally for me, it's the first two, health or physical. Primarily physical often for me.
And back to talking like earlier about physios and stuff like that, often if there's a training issue or the dog's doing something weird, you'll go to a physio and realise it's something to do with its body, not its head.
Yeah,
so
it's often
super interesting.
My aim is to always achieve the best with every dog, even if they make you look like and feel like a prat.
As long as you know it's the best out of that dog. Yeah, 100%.
I'm going to get the best out of that dog.
Absolutely. So this one's about Toto then. So when you got Toto, why did you get a spaniel and not another collie?
I ask myself this question a lot. Why did I do that?
I asked myself why I got one in the first place.
What was that idea about? So yeah, what have I got here? So when I was younger, I had a great club to be part of. So I was part of Wallingford Dog Training Club. I started there when I was 7. I left there just because I moved when I was 22. And during that time between the age of 7 and 22 was when I first got my first dog. That was my own, that we just talked about. I was really, really lucky that the membership basically would see me standing there on the sidelines and basically give me a dog. Every week I would turn up and I would run a dog, run different dogs. And so I managed to build up a huge diversity in terms of the breed, trying to get the best out of every dog from a breed perspective. So I have a lot of knowledge from that regard. And then there was a couple of key owners that basically gave me their dogs full time that I would handle them. Maybe they might be pregnant, or maybe not the dogs, the owners.
Yeah.
So I had lots of a variety of breeds as I grew up. But then my first collie that was given to me was when I was 17. That was Ada. And yeah, so then I generally just had collies. And in 2012, when I turned pro, I felt it was important to keep my skills with a diversity of breeds, because if you're training, you need to keep, I perceive, it's not always the collie that you do the collie, because potentially they're the most agile and the best, but you do need to keep your options open in terms of keeping the skill set strong. So I was like, small and medium. Like with Dizzy, they were always super friendly community, like particularly the medium class. I absolutely love it. Everyone's like really chatty and this, that, and the other, and it's super inclusive. I still find that now, super inclusive with each other and stuff. And the Shouties seem to dominate, other than the Border Collie. But the Shoutie for me is like a sheepdog, so it's quite similar to a collie, right?
Yeah, so, true. It's just a little collie.
Yeah, a little bit, but they have their challenges. I do agree. But yeah, as training, the Spaniel really interested me because they're bloody crazy. And the unpredictability of them, like...
Honestly.
Maybe I'll
give that a go.
Yeah, so I watched, and when watching the Spaniels, we used to see quite a lot of them shut down.
Yeah.
So they shut down, and I'd be like, well, why is that? Is it something physical that's going on with the dog? Or is it something to do with the pressure that the handler... So you can't help it. There is an element of pressure that goes onto the dog. And, we feel anxious, then the dog feels anxious, and oh, God, and it spirals out of control. So it seemed like a breed that was really exciting, but also had a bit of challenge as well. So basically that's why I thought, okay, I'm going to have a Spaniel. And then it was just I was really, really lucky that I did a regular monthly training day in Cambridgeshire, and there was a couple of Spaniels there that I absolutely loved. They literally were mental. Jarvis was mental. And
just
that's
how we like a Spaniel.
Yeah. And so then... and that's from the Tottersfield kennel. And the kennel is amazing. The breeder knows her stuff. She works within genetics for dogs. So knowing a lot about the Border Collie and knowing absolutely nothing about the Spaniel, I was like, so that's why I went for Tottersfield. And so here we are, and along came Toto.
How old is Toto now?
Toto is 7.
Oh, okay.
But in agility years, I put him about a 5-year-old, because like with Arrow, we lost those 2 years.
Yeah, COVID, absolutely.
Yeah. So with Toto, he's exceeded all of my expectations that I had of him. Like, he's a lot faster than what I thought he was going to be. I wanted him to be a little bit slower. Here we go again with the speed.
Yep.
So he's achieved the agility champion status, but I haven't stopped with my drive yet with him, because he's beyond perfect. He's not perfect in any... But the feeling of that unpredictability that he gives me, I literally shit myself whenever I put that dog to the line, because I have no clue what he might do.
Yeah, which personality are you going to get?
And you try to control it, like literally when you've got the bloody nation's flag on your chest, you're thinking, shit, I've got to do a job for the country here. Like,
and you don't know what's going to happen.
I will be doing a job for the country, and I will do my absolute hardest. But yeah, there is those little things that I still need to fix on him. There's a couple of little things that just need to be sorted. So so that's Toto. And that's why I got a Spaniel.
Toto's great. I love watching Toto. Although maybe I'm biased with Spaniels. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm the same with Arrow, so it's good. Yeah. Although I never get to watch you because you're always in my class. So
that's so true.
Up and that.
I know, it's annoying, isn't it? That's why sometimes when I don't make a champ final, I'm like, you know what? I'm bummed I didn't make the champ final, but now I can sit and watch all the medium dogs run the champ final, so I'm not too mad about it.
Yeah, you can then you can check out what's going on.
Exactly. Instead of being preoccupied worrying.
Yeah. Yeah, like what's going to happen.
So what is the biggest challenge you see amongst your students then, and why do you think this is, and how do you help them to overcome it? So quite a few prongs to that question.
Was this you, or was this your viewers?
No, this is the viewers.
Can I blame you or not? No, I'm joking. Okay, the biggest challenge amongst my students, well, obviously it's my time. My time.
I mean, yeah, that's
There's not enough
true.
time to go around. No, I'm only joking.
You do hear that though, don't you?
Yeah, there is a challenge, but it's I'm joking about that, but I thought it was funny to start off with. Okay, so I think the biggest challenge that my students and the agility community have is comparison.
Yeah, huge.
Okay, it's how you compare your own performance to your peers' performance. And the lovely world of social media, I do like it, it's great. but people only share the good.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with it.
I share the shit.
Yeah, I try to share as much shit as I can, to be honest, but still there's a bias to, almost both posts,
Yeah. So historically, like 20 years ago, we used to rock up to the club once a week, didn't we? And basically that's what everybody used to do. And you used to be able to see your own influence, and you'd go to a show and you'd see other people. But now there's a large, I think there's quite a big disparity, like difference in people and people that do it. You go with regards to equipment access. Some people have their own field, some people don't. Some people work full time, some people don't. Some people are retired, some people are professional trainers. So nowadays the diversity amongst the population of agility competitors are now so different because of the access to the equipment and the access to training knowledge. It's very hard, I find, for my students to then not to compare themselves to. So I try to encourage them to compare themselves to a similar type of person.
Yeah, because circumstances are so, such a big part of it, aren't they?
Yeah, and there's the financial aspect, there's time, there's your physical capabilities as well.
Yeah, huge.
So that's the hardest. I've got some other bits here, but I'm sorry I'm reading off my notes for this one. I'm like,
no, that's all right. Good to be prepared. I like it. That's definitely something I find myself sometimes, going into a bit of a pit of scrolling and then feeling worse afterwards and thinking, I really need to not do that. It's not done anything for me at all.
Yeah, and that's what I put down here that basically I say to them, when you've read that social media, when you've gone on there and looked at it, did you find it useful? Did you feel good about it? Did you feel good about yourself after you did that? Did it actually help you? And if the answer is maybe no, then maybe you need to think about how much time you're spending there.
Yeah.
Because it's not making you feel any better and not giving you the drive to train your dog. It's not feeding your internal motivation. If you're then feeling bad about yourself, then is it a good thing or not? Because it's the comparison that generally is driving you.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest thing.
And there's a huge difference between comparison negatively and then sort of taking inspiration. You're still looking at other people doing well, but you kind of, again, back to earlier, different perspective on it. So it's a fine line, really, looking at other people doing better and finding that, like you said, driving you to do better. Or looking at it and thinking, oh, well, I'm crap compared to that. Do you know what I mean?
I can't do that.
Yeah.
The dog was the same age as me. It's doing way much more than me.
Oh, that's a common one.
How many times did it do that drill before actually they posted the camera of the one that it did?
Yeah, that's a big one. Definitely.
But when you go, I don't know about you, when I go to an international, if I attend with my dogs at an international seminar and they film. Oh, yeah. And then the account of actually what happened in that training session to actually then what was posted, I'm thinking, hang on a minute, that didn't work for me.
It actually took 10 attempts to get to that bit.
Yeah, exactly. How many times? So I try to get people, so the biggest challenge for me is comparison, and I try to get people to focus on their own internal goals, their own tripping away at their own list of training aims. How is their competition performance going if they're competing? But mainly their training aims. Look at how many times you're training a week. Is it enough? Are you putting the right ingredients into your training plan? To focus on the things that you can control to gain mastery over the skills, rather than comparing yourself to Joe Bloggs down the road that might not do a job, that might have money coming out their ears, that can spend as much money as they want on training and their own equipment and buying 25 dog walks every single month when they change the spec. Yeah. You've got to make sure you're comparing like for like when you're comparing.
Yeah.
And
otherwise you're just being mean to yourself, aren't you?
Pardon?
Otherwise you're just being mean to yourself for no reason, aren't you?
Yeah, and then we haven't even talked about the dogs and how they're different, they're different in conservation and their behaviours.
It's incomparable, really, isn't it? If that's the word.
Yeah. But so that's the biggest challenge for me, is comparison.
Definitely. I can definitely relate to that. I mean, I know it sounds really cliche, but in any sort of athletic sports or anything, people always say, you're just competing against yourself, previously, if that makes sense. Sounds really cheesy, but it is kind of true, and back to earlier, just getting the best out of your dog, and if you've done the best, then try and be happy with that instead of thinking, oh, but they did a bit better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, 100%.
Yeah. I remember being interviewed for Crufts going in. That was quite a hard one. They interviewed me they followed my story for the day of champ, and then they interviewed me before the final.
Oh no!
And they were like, what?
No pressure.
What's it going to feel like when you win? And I'm like, what? I don't think about fucking winning. Like, you don't think about winning, otherwise you're going to lose.
Yeah. It's like as well with non-agility people, like, say when I was in college or whatever, and I'd be competing at the weekend, go back to college on Monday. Oh, were you competing the weekend? Yeah. Did you win everything? I'm like, it's not that simple. And then you say no, and they're like, why not?
You win every other week. Why don't you win this week?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, annoying.
But yeah, maybe just come on social media a bit more then.
Yeah. The only challenge that you've got is the course, isn't it? Yeah. That's the only challenge, and if you go around that course at a certain meters per second, you will be the winner.
Yeah.
And that's the two things that you can control.
Mm-hmm.
You can't control what your competitor's doing.
Exactly.
So
full stop.
Full stop.
So how have you evolved as a trainer over the years then?
God. So I want to
Another quite deep one, I guess.
Okay. So this is my evolvement, and being better and driving for perfection is my strength, but also my biggest weakness.
Okay.
What is the saying? Is it like is your cup always half full or half empty? What is the expression? You know, your outlook on life.
Yeah, you're either a half full or half empty kind of person. Yeah. I don't know the exact terminology, but yeah, I know what you mean.
I think I'm a half empty one, because I could always be better.
Yeah, me too.
Could always try better.
Yeah.
Always be better.
Mm-hmm.
So, because even a good performance for me is never enough. There's always something that could be better. So I'm quite tough on myself. And so, yeah, every major that I run, every run that I run, every training session that I've done, it's always how could I be better? And one of the challenges potentially for me is confidence. So I lack confidence because of that, because I'm always trying to be better and I never feel quite good enough.
Yeah.
So, and as I said before, the moment you think you've made it is the moment you've just lost it, is my scenario, trying to be better. So my biggest weakness is I identify what my weaknesses are, and I then will channel those weaknesses and go to people that I know that are going to challenge me on those weaknesses. And the biggest thing in involvement for me as trainer is that I need to listen to that advice. Consider what they have to say, because everybody has something to say. Every single one of my students, everybody that I talk to, no matter what grade they have, even my in-laws come to watch me and I say to them, what did you think about my performance today? They don't know shit about agility.
You were great.
And they have sports mind. They go, what? And then they say, well, this happened. I go, oh yeah, good point. So basically for me, how I evolve as a trainer, I suppose, is I'm always trying to better myself. And Matt goes mental, because I'll go to an international trainer, I'll go to someone who hasn't achieved as much as I do, and I'm like, act like a ditzy blonde, like, oh, what do you think? I don't think I'm very good at this. And he's like, get a grip.
Like, but you're learning from them, aren't you?
So I generally find then people are more susceptible to give you their ideas, and then you can consider them and add them in if you want to, or discard it if you don't think it's appropriate for you.
Yeah, it's taking constructive criticism as well, isn't it? And not, like I've struggled with over the years, is sort of not taking it to heart and not feeling bad about it, and more thinking, oh, this is a good thing that they're telling me this, not getting defensive, but almost getting a bit like, oh, they just said something bad about me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there's a way, and obviously there's a language barrier when we go to internationals, and they can be a bit rough, can't they?
Yes.
So evolvement for me as a trainer is about listening and considering and trying to identify your weaknesses and trying to improve on those weaknesses, and that then drives your intrinsic motivation. Currently, a big one for me is watching the World Championships. So I currently attend the World Championships every year, though I'm not competing there. Cool. Just to because when I actually competed in the World Championships, I never ever watched it. I didn't know what was going on. I'm too busy either resting or preparing, or so I never used to watch really any runs too much. I never used to know what my class was doing. So now it's quite a luxury actually to rock up without having to watch the course walking and chill, watch the class,
get your popcorn,
and then go for a drink. So for me, that's for my own CPD, for example. I think that's what I read. I watch the World Championships live at the event, so you can feel the emotion. You can see what's happening in the pens, what's happening with people. So this year, one of my primary objectives was to watch what was going on in the pens. When people were building, what was happening to those dogs and what was happening with those partnerships, as they were moving through the pens, what were those dogs and handlers doing, and what they were doing, what impact did that have on the course. That was my primary aim this year.
So then when you actually do go to compete, you have a better idea. That's interesting as well, because I did a podcast with Greg Derrick recently, and he was saying actually how, you know, how much he encourages that amongst people that want to make the team, like going and watching it when you're not in that headspace of about to run, because it just goes over your head when you're just in your little zone.
Yeah, to get the feel of the event and stuff, and it's nothing quite like it. And then also, obviously, I'd sense check, so I'd look at the course map as a handler and identify how I was going to handle it, and then see the competition go out and see, is there anything that I'm missing in from a handling perspective? Is there anything that I'm missing for a training perspective, to basically make sure that I'm staying at the top of the game, because you need to stay at the top of the game, you need to be involved and watching. So
especially when it's changing so quickly all the time.
And that's the cool thing, isn't it?
Definitely.
So that you've got the involvement of the course design in terms of judging things. So I always train the shit I can't train. So if I pick up a course and go, oh yeah, that was easy, I wouldn't do that one. Oh, I like that one, wouldn't do that one. I always do what I can't do. But then that makes you feel shit.
I was going to say, that's uncomfortable for a lot of people, because they like feeling like, oh, I was good at that. But it's like forcing yourself to do things you're probably going to fail at a few times first. Huge.
So that's where I generally sit over there with that. And so in terms of my involvement as a trainer, I'd like to hope that with keeping current in the current course designs, but I generally train difficult stuff that I can't do rather than stuff that I can do.
Do you take that approach with students as well then? Obviously in group settings it's hard because everyone's got different strengths and weaknesses, but...
I think sometimes I do worry that my students struggle with the confidence because of this, because I always train things that I can't train. But then I'd like to hope that you wouldn't come to me to be challenged, because I can support you with that challenge. You don't come to me to run a circuit and me just go, clappy, happy, next. That's not what it's about. I'm here there to help you achieve, and I generally know exactly, all of my students, I know exactly what their weaknesses are, and they don't come here for the stuff that they're good at. They come here for the stuff that they're not good at. Yeah,
that's so true. Definitely something people need to get more comfortable with, I reckon. And something I've had to get more comfortable with, definitely.
So in terms of my evolving as a trainer, I'd like to hope that with that mindset, that helps me continue to drive forward. And I think that's probably how the fear that I'm not good enough is what motivates me to push forward and keeps me evolving. And everybody's got something to give. Everybody's got something to say, to share with you, that potentially that you could get, but then I'm not very arrogant, so,
I know what you mean. And as well, often, I don't know if you're the same, but being like quite a perfectionist with things, like it's a blessing and a curse, because it really does help you sort of give you that drive and that motivation to be like perfect, but then it's also a nightmare because it's really hard to be perfect in anything.
You can't be perfect. It's not possible.
It's never going to happen.
It's difficult.
That's why it keeps you going. Like, it's never enough, because there must be a higher level to it or whatever. But blessing and a curse.
Totally. I totally agree.
So this is an interesting one, and more recent, I would say, is what are your thoughts on widening the dog walk? So kind of pivoting back to a safety equipment standpoint.
Okay, I'm all up for involvement. I've put here, I'm always ready for change. Change for me, I'm not scared of change. And I like things to evolve. I think it comes back to the speed. Because has the sport become too fast for it to be safe? And if we're going to widen the dog walk, what width is the correct width to do?
Exactly.
Because what could be wide enough for the little poodle or the little Sheltie might not be wide enough for the big German Shepherd. But is the big heavy German Shepherd or the heavier breeds, are they suitable for the sport?
Because at the end of the day, all the different breeds and sizes and everything are still on the same exact course equipment,
There's that thing. And the other thing that I have about the dog walk widening issue, or the current trend, so to speak, is it a dog walk issue? Is it the actual dog walk issue, or is it the handler knowledge that's the problem. So is it that the knowledge of the handler is not correct, and so therefore they're not identifying the approach that potentially their dog is going to perform it in a certain way and going to turn wide or do something. So as a handler, instead of just chucking and running and expecting, oh dear, the dog's fallen off, should we have maybe handled that approach to actually be a handler, because that's what we are, as opposed to just run and see.
Yeah. I mean, don't even like get me started on dog walk entries when you're judging. Like it's literally I'll only do them like straight now because I'm just scared to get people.
Scared to get beaten, aren't you?
Yeah, honestly. But then some people choose like the most bizarre ways to handle the entry, and I'm thinking, no, but that was definitely safe. Like I made sure that was safe. That was not my problem. Like that's how you handled it.
That wrong. Yeah.
It's a tricky one.
So then the other thing with regards to the dog walk is basically, if dogs are only experienced, if you think about the sports side of this, if you only train one way, if you only train extension up onto the dog walk, or you only train straight lines up onto the dog walk, or you only train a safe dog walk, you don't train shitty dog walks, whatever that may be, whatever you determine as safe or unsafe, then when you then expose your dog to an unsafe angle, a dog walk that potentially might bounce a bit more or be more stable, when the dog then approaches that, it doesn't have the skill set, the knowledge and the training exposure to then be safe.
Yeah, and a lot of people will like walk courses and go, don't like that, I'm not going to run it. But then what if you get to EO or AWC or whatever, and there's a bit of a entry and your dog's never seen it before? You can't just say I'm not running it. Do you know what I mean? So that is a really hard one.
If you only in certain judges this year at the it was really weird at the World Championships this year when watching, because obviously I did the European Championships and I knew everything about all the judges' themes with those judges, as much so you then, as you evolve through, as you go towards the competition, you can identify, oh God, how has that judge changed? Have they changed? Have they not? So literally this course went down I didn't really know what was coming because I didn't do any research on the judges this year, which was my bad, but there's only so much time in the day. And this course went down, I was like, holy fuck, look at that A-frame approach. Oh my God, really? And they run the white dogs through it, because obviously internationally we have the white dogs that we can run around to see, and the judges will use those white dogs to test. So they'll say to the handlers, I need you to run it this way for you to test. So anyway, they put the dogs round, they looked at the A-frame approach, they moved it maybe an inch and said, yeah, good. I was like,
oh no.
Oh,
you were hoping he'd like fully twist it or something.
I was like, and then I knew, and then I saw the judge walk into the ring, and I was like, oh yeah, it's that judge. We know. Shit, A-frames.
Yeah. It all clicks then. You're like, oh, yeah, that'll be why.
So if you'd have trained that in the approach to that competition, you'd need to support that line and drive it up, because if you trained that 6 weeks ago and the dog missed the contact, or it, God forbid, fell off, you would know then, and the dog would then have that exposure to be able to deal. So so in terms of the dog walk width, yes, I hear you. Yes, there needs to be changed, etc. But actually, it's not all about the dog walk. We have a responsibility as a handler to handle, but we also have a responsibility as a trainer and also a handler to expose our dogs to the skills that they need to enable them to have the balance and coordination to be fit for function and to be fit to deliver. I mean, in my experience as a coach, I've had one dog fall off of a dog walk in my whole career. It was a straight approach from a tunnel. It was a small dog. And it was a galloping dog walk.
Oh, well, that says it all then, really, doesn't it?
So and I do expose my lot to harder approaches to the dog walk. I have a bouncy dog walk at home, and I train on the Gallican dog walk elsewhere. So they have bounce and they have solid. So they're learning the difference. But the only dog that's fallen off.
Wow.
Under training instruction in the 15 years that I've been coaching, but I've been coaching since I was 12, unprofessionally.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, unexpected. I almost wonder if sometimes, people have maybe panicked a little bit and thought quick fix to stop dogs falling off dog walks. And that's kind of the first thing that they think about. But then, like I said, there's a lot more to it than that, isn't there?
And also it could be like an underlying injury.
Yeah.
Say you've got a psoas blow, that is really hard to detect. You've got an unbalance of the dog hits a funny stride and goes up the dog walk. Was that dog injured before it fell off the dog walk or after?
Yeah, it could have already had a niggle, like you said, and then that just being that unfortunate last thing. Yeah.
And then the other spin that I've got on it is in terms of the financial burden of significant changes.
Yeah, that's a lot of equipment to change, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, you've got the people that host the competitions have got a responsibility to present the most safest equipment they have for us. But from a training perspective, and from those grassroots people or those clubs, the ones that are the hobbyist people, they might not have the funds to go out and buy a dog walk every 2-3 years. What are they? $4,000?
Yeah, so they're going to be stuck with an old size dog walk.
Yeah,
that's true.
But we've got to evolve. I do understand. So I don't have the answers, but all I do is train and handle and teach and give the dogs the most exposure they can do to keep them as safe and as schooled as possible.
There's only so much we can do, isn't there, at the end of the day?
Yeah. So I don't have your answers because I wouldn't know what width to do.
No, I don't think anyone really does. There has been one made, hasn't there? I'm pretty sure I saw.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, that's really good. Like Katrina, I think the running contact coach.
Yeah, I can never pronounce her last name, unfortunately.
No, Katrina Pop, that one. I think so that's cool. At least someone's evolving something. I think she's one of the...
Yeah, getting on with it, giving it a go.
Yeah, so that's good.
Absolutely. So how do you think agility will evolve in the future? Jeez.
These last two questions, because the last one is what?
The last one is, what changes would you like to see to agility in the future? So I kind of suppose they're kind of interlinked in the same question. Like, how do you think it will evolve? And then also, how would you like it to evolve if you were in charge of it, I guess? So
yeah, that's cool.
I guess you can kind of merge them a little bit.
Well, for me, these were difficult because I come from an operations background. So I'm a doing person. So in terms of sales and marketing and fantasy and fiction, what's in the future, it's not really in my skill set. I find it really difficult to future proof, which is a weakness. It's a massive weakness of mine. So in terms of how will agility evolve, I didn't necessarily answer that one. That's bad.
No,
because I found it quite difficult. To look to see, but I am a changer. I mean, I'm not changing. So that was that. So in terms of the changes I would like to see, you're not going to... Basically, my headline on this is I would like to see less intimidation and less bullying that goes on in the sport.
Yeah,
that is what that would be. If I could fix one thing right now, it would be that.
I agree.
So that for me is a different. And so, from my own perspective, I'm not personally affected by that because it don't really bother to me. You know what I mean? I've achieved, I've been there. Yes, I'm trying to match, I'm trying to equal, and I stay true to my intrinsic motivation and work with the dogs that are in front of me, and that's what I'm passionate about, achieving the best of the dogs. But I do get really sad at shows nowadays a little bit because I feel for the people that, you know, the people that stand on the line and don't have the courage. Like I remember when I was like younger, as a junior handler, and I wasn't very confident, and so feeling intimidated by people on the sidelines, sniggering, laughing, being in their clique together. Like, really? I thought I left that shit in the playground.
Honestly, I've said this so many times to my parents as well, bless them. I'm like, it's still going on, and I'm like, in my 20s now, why is this still happening?
I thought that happened when I was 14. Yeah. I didn't expect it when I was 40 fucking two.
I know, it's quite disappointing, isn't it? You're like, well, I thought this would end, but it doesn't.
Yeah. But... So I feel sorry for those people that are worried to compete because of that.
Of judgment and stuff.
Yeah, and then the second thing of that is in terms of judging, like the judging intimidation, the intimidation that they experience as judges, like some of our real experienced judges are literally shitting themselves because they're worried about it. They're worried about the intimidation or what's gonna happen on social media. And probably the problem we have these days is that we've lost the ability to go up to that person and have an adult conversation about it.
Yeah, no, it's all keyboard warriors these days, isn't it? I don't think it'd be half as bad without social media, but
it has its merits, doesn't it?
It does, that's it. It's still useful, but then,
so good. So good. Like we're having this talk right now, it's brilliant.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I suppose this topic isn't isolated to agility, is it? No. It's the way of the world.
Especially in sort of communities or sort of niche cliques, like you said. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. So, but I remember when this didn't used to happen. This never used to be this way in the sport. We used to cheer everybody.
Yeah.
We used to interact and be friendly and approachable and talk to everybody. Never did you ever turn up to a show and be blanked for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
Sorry, because I got blonde hair today. Is that why you're blanking me today?
Yeah. And then you sat there in your car thinking, what did I say? Did I say something?
Yeah. Right. Jesus. Anyway, so so for me that makes me feel a bit sad, and so therefore, if I had a magic wand, and what changes would I like to see? I'd like to spin the wheel back to the social culture that we had 15 to 20 years ago, where everybody was rooting for everybody else. Of course, when you stand on the line, you want to beat the next person, but when you come out of the ring, you go, well done, that was a good one. I could beat you this week, but next week I might beat you.
Yeah, competitive in a nice way, not in a nasty, resentful way.
Anyway, so yeah, that's what I would like to change.
And you also have to remember, like, as agility, most of us, probably everyone, started as a fun little hobby to do with their dogs, and then you're thinking, well, now you started off doing that, and now you're being nasty with it, and it's like, hang on, how did that happen? How did we get here? Like, you have to remind yourself.
Crazy. But hey ho. What else have I got in that? Yeah, I think that's probably about it. What have I written?
I suppose as far as how do you think it'll evolve, like you said, it's impossible really to say, because, 10, 20 years ago, no one would have had a clue that it would be like it was today. Like, you can't really think, I think this is going to happen, because no one would have a clue.
No. Yeah. So you were probably looking for course design things or equipment, or I don't really know what the viewers were going to think I was going to say on that with regards, but it's because of my operational background. I suppose it's quite difficult for me to. I'm a fixer and I stay true to the core, and I'll respond to change. But yeah, if I wanted to see something change, it would be about the attitude of our current agility community and encouraging people to be more adult in their behaviour. Yeah. And if you're not happy with something, talk about it in an adult way rather than bitching on social media about it.
Yeah. Especially.
And then the other thing that goes on is you've got the post that's going on with social media, and then you've got all the background messages of energy that is trying to build into that social media post.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And the bullying and intimidation that goes on there to make sure that this post is the best one. Yeah. And has the most likes and has the most comments.
Agility net as well, honestly.
So yeah, at the end of the day, it's our hobby.
Yes,
Sport England,
exactly.
and we've gone full circle. Sport England don't recognise it because we're not attached to the dog. So it is a hobby, and quite frankly, it's dogs jumping wooden sticks.
Yeah.
So let's just enjoy it, shall we?
Yeah.
And be nice to each other.
Yeah. Just think about how it looks from like a non-agility person perspective. We're running around fields, when we're walking the course, we're walking around a field with our arms pointed out. Lighten up.
Yeah, that's it. I said, I was with the Kennel Club rep the other day. I can't remember what happened. And they were talking about, that pony riding stuff that they, there's those little pony sticks. That
hobby horsing.
What is it called?
Hobby horsing. It's all over TikTok. Yeah.
We were talking about that today, and I was like,
cracks me up.
Well, they course walk for that. I was like, what? They do what?
It's like proper, isn't it? They have championships for it and everything these days.
Yeah.
And they take it so seriously in their uniforms. It's great. I love watching it.
And the non-agility person went to me, Tasha, you do course walking, and that's what I think of you too. You idiot. You do course walking. I was like, oh, shut up.
It's like, there's no way I look like that. Don't say that.
I do that. What are you on about?
Oh, no, that's so
funny. I was about it, obviously. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, that is all of the questions.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thanks to all your viewers for asking all the questions. It's been really cool, and also got me thinking too. So, hey, I hope it was useful, and I'll see you on the circuit.
Yeah, definitely. So that was my conversation with Natasha. Thank you again so much to Natasha for speaking to me on today's episode. It was so interesting. Honestly, one of my favourite episodes to date. I know I say that a lot, but seriously, this was phenomenal. And I just know you guys loved it too. So without further ado, that's it from me, guys. If you're feeling generous, and it is nearly Christmas, it's pretty much December now, right? So please do leave the podcast a rating or review, ideally 5 stars, love you all, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That can be your Christmas present to me for all these amazing episodes, right? That would be great. And yeah, I have loads of really exciting upcoming guest episodes for you all to enjoy. So make sure you're following the podcast so you don't miss those. And also please do follow me on social media on all platforms at Pause in Pursuit, especially Instagram and TikTok. At the moment, I'm on my TikTok grind. I'm having so much fun over there. Keep sending in your guest recommendations and also your solo topic recommendations, things you want me to talk about in future episodes. I love to hear from you guys and speak about the topics that you want to hear. Just make sure you're following the podcast so that you don't miss any of the exciting episodes that I have coming up. And that is pretty much all from me today. Thank you for listening again, guys, and I will speak to you next Wednesday. Bye.